So, hey, Storm Freaks, it's Phil. Hey, the sequel to the film that a lot of us Storm geeks usually put on our Mount Rushmore has finally arrived. And we're going to have an opportunity tonight to talk about a spoiler-free and then a spoiler spree version of Twisters. We're also going to be taking your live calls of your reviews, your questions for our special guests. So go ahead and strap in your harness for episode 214 of Stormfront Freaks Live!
Woo!
Calls himself the Tornado Wrangler.
If you feel it, chase it! I said if you feel it, chase it!
Hey, so welcome to the most entertaining weather show. This is the award-winning Stormfront Freaks Live. We're brought to you by our friends at Windstorm Products. As hurricane season approaches, it's always crucial to ensure your home is prepared for the worst. That's why we trust Windstorm Products for all your hurricane hardware needs. With a wide range of products for wood, concrete, or brick homes, they've got everything you need to secure your property. Visit windstormproducts.com and fortify your home today. It's great to see everybody. Look at this lineup we got tonight. This is going to be a lot of fun. So thanks to our Patreon teammates. They're all scrolling across the bottom of the screen, like our new EF5 teammate, Maddie. I met Maddie last night in Westchester, Ohio at the IMAX screening of Twisters. She drove down, Brady, from Grove City.
Wow.
Because she wanted to come see me. She didn't want to go to the Columbus Theater, Brady, that you were at. Like, she's
they're kind of iffy anyway. You know, they're kind of
I'm kidding, but that was so cool. Got to see Maddie. I'll tell you what, you can join our team as well. You get access to all the special messages that we put in our exclusive Facebook group that we've got with all our co-hosts. Over 50 of our past guests are in that group as well. We've also got tiers that include exclusive merchandise. So a lot of our EF5 and greater tier Patreon teammates have gotten, you know, our 200th episode T-shirt, water bottles. Now we've got these summer bucket hats. All of this stuff is exclusive merch. But you can help support our show, and you can join our team as well for as little as $5 a month. Help support what we're doing. We appreciate it, but you can find out more if you go to stormfrontfreaks.com. So we've got a lot of new viewers, a lot of new listeners with the show as we're talking about Twisters tonight. And so one of the things we do is we like to go around the horn, introduce the co-hosts that are with us tonight, help you put a voice to the name, a little recognition there, but also find out what they're drinking so that you kind of know, hey, we're a little loose weather podcast around here. Like, we like to have a little fun. We don't usually take ourselves too seriously, but it's just a great way to introduce everybody. So I'm going to start with Dina Knightley, who is our weather producer for weather.com. Dina, what are you drinking tonight?
I didn't get a chance to grab a beer, so I just have a raspberry water. I was kind of running late too from work, so I was like, I got to get ready and hopefully, maybe in a commercial, I'll grab a beer.
Yeah, take one of the breaks. You better go get something tasty and refreshing. Who knows how long we're going to be here tonight? So then we got our meteorologist Brady Harris, Stormcat 5. Brady, what do you got tonight? What are you drinking?
You know, I'm keeping it classy. I'm kind of out of because I've actually, you know, all the alcohol tomorrow is going towards my birthday party tomorrow night. We're trying to keep it. You know, the only thing I have left right now in the house is a little bit of bourbon. So I'm just having a little bit of bourbon tonight on this warm summer night here in Ohio.
Nice.
Finally 21.
Yep, it's the 21st, right?
Nice.
All right, Mark Maz Massaro, our former on-camera meteorologist. Maz, what do you got tonight?
Okay, so I stuffed myself with Mexican food earlier, so I needed something. And I'm having a double chocolate vodka on the rocks.
What?
Wow.
By 360. It's apparently everything's recyclable. I think I can even eat the glass. I think, but it's good. It's perfect for after a big dinner.
Hey, save it to the end of the show before you eat the glass. We want you to stick around
Please.
for most of the show. All right, we got our on-camera meteorologist at the Weather Channel, Jennifer Watson. Jen, what do you got? What are you drinking?
Well, I'm drinking coffee because I had to wake up super early, but I got my Twister's cup and I have my bucket from the movie theater last night.
Oh, you got one from the movie theater. That's cool.
Yeah. So, but I was up in New York City for like 2 nights for the live Q&A, and then I had to wake up at 3:00 to fly back today. So I'm a little tired. I got like 3 hours of sleep, but it was amazing. So much fun.
Suck it up, Buttercup. Let's roll. We're ready to
We're going.
Awesome. All right. Then we've got our meteorologist and author, Serena Arnold. Serena sporting the Joe look tonight. What are you drinking?
Killing it.
It was awesome. Did it last night when we were seeing Twisters. But yeah, drinking tonight, made a drink out of bourbon called Twisters. So bourbon, lemon juice, and honey.
Nice.
Nice.
Having a good time.
That sounds delicious. Sounds delicious. So, folks, so here's the plan for tonight. Here's what we're going to do. So, roughly the first 30 minutes or so, we're going to have a spoiler-free kind of review of the film. We're going to talk to our guests. We're going to introduce here in a moment. But we're not going to spoil anything. So, we won't hit any specifics about the film. Kind of, I guess, just share in general what we thought and find out a little bit more from our guests tonight. And then we're going to have a couple video breaks, and then we'll come back. We'll share a spoiler warning, and then we'll get into some spoilers. So if you haven't seen the film yet, feel free to watch or listen, for the first 30 minutes or so before our warning, and then you can come back after you've had a chance to see the film, because we don't want to spoil it for anyone. So we'll definitely let you know. But Maz, I'm going to turn it over to you and introduce our guest tonight.
Awesome. We got a couple of great guys, Rick Smith and Connor Toon. And Rick, hey, we know him. Rick is the warning coordination meteorologist at the National Weather Service in Norman Forecast Office. So it's awesome. And it's so good to see him again, because he's been a past guest of the Stormfront Freaks, including episode 100, which was a crazy, crazy night in Oklahoma City, and was also involved in the filming of Twisters. I saw him. Oh, what? I can't say anything else about that. And Connor Toon, professional storm tracker for KFOR TV out of Oklahoma City, and an independent storm chaser with 12 years of experience. He filmed scenes as a storm chaser and Twisters as well. Welcome, guys. I'm gonna ask you both. Tell us more about what your jobs are before you tell us about where you were in the movie and stuff like that. I'm gonna have Rick, you go first, and then Connor, you take up after that.
You mean like real life job? Like
yeah,
you get paid for? Okay. Well, I'm the warning coordination meteorologist at the forecast office here in Norman. Every forecast office has one of those, and we're kind of the, external affairs, sales and marketing, complaint department, consumer affairs, whatever you want to call it, just kind of dealing with all the external stuff in the office. So dealing with our media partners, all our TV stations, radio stations, all our emergency managers, public safety agencies, and because I'm in the Norman office, and that's one of the coolest offices there is, I get opportunities to do extra stuff, which we'll be talking about.
That's awesome.
Awesome. Connor.
Yeah, I've been with KFOR for about a year now as a storm tracker. And for you guys that, I know you guys know what network storm trackers are. In Oklahoma, it's kind of its own thing. It's kind of its own league, and it's kind of a hard competitive field to get into. And this last year has just been a lot of luck and a lot of blessings. And I've been fortunate enough to get involved with them. Before that, I was just a Yahoo, doing his own thing, an adrenaline junkie. But yeah, this has been so much more rewarding being out there with more of a purpose. And, I love it. I absolutely love it.
So I have a question for both of you. How did you even get involved in the movie? Like, were you approached by them? Yeah, Rick, you go first, and then Connor, you chime in.
Well, I think the last January, I got a call from someone who was a location scout for the movie, and they were scouting locations. They needed to find places that we'll talk about later in the movie that looked good, and they knew that there was going to be a need for possibly to know what a weather service office looked like. So that was our first contact with Allison Nafee. She was the location scout we worked with, and we set up a meeting. And a couple of weeks later, she came, and also I think it was just her and maybe a couple of other people at that point. So that's how we kind of got involved in it, and then it just grew from there. We ended up having 6 different separate visits from some component of the movie. Usually it was directors, producer, production design, something like that. All the way until this April was the last time we had a visit from any of them. So that's kind of how we got involved in it. I mean, a lot of our work, I don't know how deep we want to get now, but a lot of our work just had to do with how do they make a weather service office look legit in the movie. So lots of consultation about what's on that monitor, what's that, can we buy that off the shelf, can we duplicate that, can we record that. You're gonna hear this over and over tonight. Their attention to detail and their attention to their desire to get it as right as they possibly could was super impressive. I mean, from beginning to end, that's one of the things I was most impressed with. So we dealt with them on several things, and we can get into more detail later, but I actually got to teach a class. I taught a 2-hour tornado class to 9 cast members and 9 crew members, and that was
That's cool.
Yeah, that's really cool.
That's so awesome.
The cast members, the stars.
So,
Nice.
Rick got to
so
hang out with them before anybody.
Rick, tell us about, like, what are you teaching? Like, how, where do you start with a Hollywood actor?
Yeah.
With what on weather?
God, I got to tell you, that was my question too. I never talked to Hollywood actors, and I was like, what in the heck? So somebody from the production office contacted us. It was at the end of our Storm Spotter training season. They were like, I know you're not doing any more classes, but we'd like to do something for the cast and crew that's here.
Yeah.
So we talked back and forth, and I said, so what do you want? Do you want a Storm Spotter class? Do you want a class to teach the actors something that'll give them some background for their characters? Do you want like a tornado safety thing for the people who are going to be living here for a couple of months during tornado season? And they were like, yes, that's what so,
all the above.
All the above. So I love to hear that, because that was cool. So it was a 2-hour thing, and I started off, I think, with like Oklahoma tornado culture, because most of these people had never been here before, and they were coming here. The shooting began May 8th of last year. So they're coming right in what's traditionally the peak of our severe weather season. So it was just about, this is what you're getting yourself into. The people here in Oklahoma live and breathe tornadoes. They are a part of our lives. I taught them if you just hear the word more, what that means. I showed them the different beer tornado themed IPAs that are available here. Warned them about the Saturday siren test. I mean, just things like that. And we talked a lot about the PTSD and the storm anxiety that people have here. I didn't know much about how pertinent that was going to be at the time. But and then we did a Storm Spotter training session, a little short one, kind of condensed, and talked about supercells and wall clouds and updrafts and inflow and cold pools and all that kind of thing. And then a little bit of severe weather meteorology and a little bit of tornado safety. So, and that was one of the best audiences I've ever had. I had no clue what to expect. I didn't know if these people were going to be on their phones or, asleep, whatever. I had no clue. And I didn't know a lot of the actors. I'd never seen a lot of the actors before, so didn't know what to expect. Man, they were incredible. Daisy and Glenn were in the middle of the front row. Daisy had a notebook, and she took notes the entire time. I mean, it was the most awesome thing. They asked good questions. They were attentive. They responded. They laughed. I mean, it was awesome. So if I did nothing else, that was the highlight, probably. One of the highlights is dealing with them with that. And then we went on a tour. We got a bunch of pictures of them in front of the Dorothy props there in the Weather Center that you guys have seen. I think we'll be able to release those pictures tomorrow. So I'm looking forward to that. I don't know why they're so secretive, but anyway, that's the movie business. There's a lot of weird stuff. And then they kind of came on a tour of the office and just kind of hung around and talked. And I think they would have stayed there all afternoon. They kind of got pulled away to go back to whatever they were doing. But yeah, that was an amazing experience.
That's so cool, Rick.
It shows what you did. I think showed.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah. Like you could tell that they were interested. It was nice to have a cast that in the live Q&A, but in the interviews they've been doing, they truly love the weather and they care about it, you know, and some of them have had close calls to F5 tornadoes. So
yeah, and it was cool hanging around Daisy a little bit because she's from London, England.
Yeah.
And you know, she hadn't encountered very many thunderstorms at all. I think she said maybe one of her first thunderstorms was when she was shooting Where the Crawdads Sing in Louisiana.
Yeah.
And kind of that being an experience. Other than that, you know, if the winds get a little gusty, that's the exciting weather they have in London. But she was just so sweet and so nice. And I got to go to a kickoff barbecue that they had like 2 days before they started shooting, and we just kind of hung around a little bit, and was asking about, you know, what kind of cloud is that, you know, and she had the camera that she uses in the movie. She was kind of practicing with that. So I don't know. They really were just the most down-to-earth, nice people. But what the coolest thing to me was how legitimately into their characters they were, like talking about motivations for characters or what are some chaser I mean, I could go on and on, but it was a very, very cool experience. And they really did care about the weather and love the weather. So that's
and Rick, I just want to give a huge shout out to you because I'm just like, without spoiling anything, of all the weather movies I think I've ever seen, this was the one where I was looking to my left and looking to my right, like being like, guys, that's an actual like weather term, like that's an actual weather concept. Like this is actually nailing the concepts. And a lot of the other weather movies we get, it's just kind of like, you know, it's either like Sharknado or it's a complete joke, or it's like clearly they've never talked to a meteorologist in their life. But the really cool thing is, Rick, is like you were in there and not only did they listen, but also it was like you gave them all the knowledge that they needed. And it's just so like that's you, man. And so that's really cool. Just because I don't think there's been any weather movie that's done it like they have.
They did a good job, and I'm not going to I got them started, and they hadn't even started shooting it. We didn't have all the actors here yet. They were still coming in, but the main core cast was there. But I got to give most of the credit to Sean Waugh, who works for the National Severe Storms Laboratory, and Kevin Kelleher, who is the movie's tornado consultant. Kevin used to be the deputy director of the Severe Storms Lab. He did consulting for Twister. This time he was he retired from the government, so that he was full-time, like on the set, and he got to get into the script and tell them this is not how this would work or this wouldn't work. And the best things about the movie, the dialogue, and we can get into it later, the radar displays, the dialogue, the storm terminology, the jargon. I got to give most of the credit to them because they were deeply involved in the process. It was a team effort for sure, but Sean and Kevin, I can't give them enough credit because it was as good of a movie as it was for us meteorologists because of them.
I think when we all showed up, like I went with another meteorologist from the Weather Channel too, and I was like, "You can come with me tonight. We're going." And to have meteorologists watching it, where you're kind of waiting, you're like, "Is it going to be good? Are they going to do it right?" And we were like, "That was good. That was good."
Yeah,
it was good.
Exactly.
And I was wondering, you did answer my question because I was wondering, you know, who they consulted for all the weather and making sure they had it right.
Yeah.
I mean, we did a little bit. I mean, we heard from the actors when we met with them those first couple of times that the director, Lee Isaac Chung, really encouraged ad-libbing. So he really wanted them to they might do a take where they did it based on the script, but then they might do another take where he said kind of improvise or kind of ad-lib. So they wanted some chaser terms. So they got it from a lot of different people. But I gave them a chaser glossary and I got on Facebook, I think, and asked, you know, a vague question about this unnamed movie, you know, what are some chaser terms? And so, I mean, there wasn't too much of a deep dive on chaser terms in the movie, but what they used was good. So, but yeah, we started it off, but Kevin and Sean were there constantly. They got to be really good friends with Sean Waugh and actually came back this past April and he took them chasing. But Kevin Kelleher was kind of the core of making it as good as it was as far as the science goes.
So
he got deep into that.
So Connor, I've got a question for you. I want a quick shout out. We've got Charles Peak is in the chat
Charles,
tonight.
yes.
Hey.
So Charles is there. We got all of our great, our normal chat folks that we love seeing. But also notice we got Nicholas Isabella from New York.
Nice.
Chaser friend of ours. He's in the chat as well. So good to see those guys. But my question to you, Connor, is so you did more, you were involved on site a little bit. Without spoiling anything about maybe the scene, I guess what was, like, how long were you there? What time did you have to get there? You know, what was it like being involved in a production scene of this movie?
And did you have to take vacation?
Yeah, I love you.
No, actually, I've been a stay-at-home dad for a few years. My wife is a labor and delivery nurse, and we just had our third daughter last year. So not too long before the movie. Thank you.
Yeah.
Not too long before the movie, we had our third daughter, and you know, so I was stay at home, and I had all the time to you know, kind of devote to going out on the set, and it was about 7 days, 7 12-hour days on set, and it was amazing. You know, it was like another world. I'd never, and that's something that was kind of a dynamic for us chasers that were on set, was that we were our own little clique. You know, we got out there on day one, and the first set is that red roofed gas station. It's called the Lone Ranger. You know, when Glenn pulls up and they do the "If You Feel It, Chase It" sequence. Yeah. That's it's called the Lone Ranger. That's what we all called it. And on day one, we're all kind of, you know, walking around the set, getting ready for our first few takes, and introducing ourselves. And there's about probably 20 to 30 chasers in the movie, but only about half of us are actual, you know, chasers, and the rest were actors. So, and these actors that were out there, they had done work in other film before, you know, they were kind of picky about who they picked. And then here's all these chasers that most of us had no experience on any set at all. So we all sort of pretty quickly clicked together. And, you know, it was crazy because we had like I said, no idea what was going to be involved. And it's just amazing. Like a big budget Hollywood set, you wouldn't believe every single thing is somebody's paying attention to that detail. You know, there was a guy that literally walked around with a bucket full of fake mud. It wasn't even real mud.
No way.
And he would splatter them. He would walk around and splatter the mud with a paintbrush on the vehicles.
That's awesome.
That's amazing. That's
cool. And I had a conversation with the guy, and I was like, you know, is that, you know, what kind of paint is that? And he was like, oh, and he gave me, like, you know, these pigment terms and everything, but that was that guy's job, was to walk around and
he's the mud guy.
The mud. But
yeah, he did movie mud. Guy. That's so hilarious. You can
think about, you know, that was somebody's job. The lighting, the sound, everything on set was purposeful.
Connor, were the actors the drivers, or were the actors the drivers, or did they have like professional drivers?
There was a few times that they would be driving the vehicles, especially Glenn. Like when he pulled into the gas station, he was driving.
Yeah.
And then at the second gas station, there's two gas stations in the film. There's the Lone Ranger, and then there's the Midway gas station, which is the yellow roofed with the plane that's parked out front. And in both of those sequences, he was driving the Dodge. So, and then anything, you know, that was real tearing in and out was a stunt driver who looked a lot like Glenn, actually. Like, you know, this guy he had done all these movies, done all these, you know, stunts in other movies, but they grabbed him because he looked like Glenn. So,
wow.
Oh, great.
Bob Pack is checking in, by the way, and letting you know. Connor, I don't think this is probably a spoiler, but I guess your name was Vinny, so that's
the stunt driver's name was Vinny.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Stunt
Yes.
driver. Got it.
Yeah, he was a cool guy. Then the stunt driver for Glenn was a cool guy.
So how long was shooting from like beginning to end? I know there was the strike in the middle of it. So were you just apart for that 1 week, Connor, or did you have other contributions as well.
Yeah, so we were originally supposed to come back 2 more times. The first week was a solid 5 days, at least for me and a few others. Bob was one of them that was there for the entire time.
Yeah.
Skip Talbot, Jennifer was there the whole time. I mean, there's lots of chasers that were there for the whole thing, and then a few that could only make it for a few days because of their schedules. Like Adam Lucio. Adam has a great part in the movie where that sequence where the camera's pulling back and you see Adam with his camera. Like Adam could only make it for 1 day, but he ended up getting one of the coolest segments in the movie, which is cool. But
now, how many?
Sorry, go ahead.
How many? I was gonna say, how many days? Like, did you have to have stormy days? Did they try and make it so the sky was? I mean, they did a great job. I was trying to think the whole time. I'm like, it looks like a stormy day.
They were trying for continuity to make sure that the shots lined up with not so much the clouds in the sky, but they didn't want you to go from bright sunshine to clouds. So they would wait for these clouds to pass for the lighting to be the same. They could change the clouds and the sky box like pretty easily. Talking to Ben, who was the VFX guy, he was never worried about what they needed to put in, but lighting for them, I guess, since it was film, they were really mindful of the lighting.
And contrary to popular belief, a lot of people ask that question. They came here in May because they wanted storms. They didn't want storms. They had too many storms. They had too many interruptions from lightning, wind. They didn't want real storms. They wanted storms they could control. But yeah, they had to deal with all the, bad weather was bad for them for this movie for sure.
I'm curious, did you guys ever get to see like some of anything to like almost double check it? Because it seemed like some of these storms looked really good. And, as a meteorologist, you're kind of like, is it going to be right? Is it going to be spinning the correct way? Like those kind of things. Did they say somebody was actually checking that?
I know that Kevin Kelleher got to make a trip in the post-production days to, I don't know, some Skywalker or Steven Spielberg type facility where he actually got to sit in there and see some of the visual effects and talk about, this cloud needs to look like this. So he actually got input from the very beginning, the earliest versions of the script, all the way through the post-production. So he actually had input on all of that. They really took that advice.
I can speak a little bit to the clouds and the tornadoes because of how closely I worked with Ben. And I don't know if some of you guys were in here when we were talking earlier, but Ben is the VFX supervisor for the film. So he is the guy that was in charge of the team that was making everything CGI, everything.
Wow.
And this is a guy who's worked in Hollywood for a really long time. And a quick Google of his name, you'd see everything he's worked on. But my small part in the movie was I was the tour guide and Ben was the tour guest.
Oh,
yes, that
cool.
is Mr. Ben Snow, who is now one of my favorite people in the world. And I love Ben to death because he was just such an awesome guy. Like I kind of was saying earlier, I'm on set and I know nothing about movies. I was excited because I was on the Twister sequel, but I knew nothing about etiquette and procedure for filming a movie. And Ben was just so cool and so chill. And he was really good about helping me and the rest of our tour group, get into the job of pretending. And that's all we were doing. We were asking him about, how we should stand and they were concerned about continuity. But for the people that were the background actors, they sort of wanted us to keep up with our own continuity, to make sure we were in our right spots and that we were doing the same thing from take to take. And he was just awesome guy, super down to earth. But one of the things I noticed in these first couple of days were, like I said, 12-hour days. And in between every take, I would have time to chat with Ben. And, he kind of started talking about everything he had worked on in the past, his history in Hollywood. And then he started talking to me about the tornadoes. And as a storm chaser and somebody who loved the first movie, I'm geeking out about the fact that I'm talking to the guy that made the tornadoes in the first, and he's going to make the tornadoes in this one. And it really was surprising how much he knew about the process. And he was talking about, mesoscale structure and talking about, tornadoes and how they progress and visual cues that they were weakening versus strengthening and all that stuff. And it was awesome. I knew early on that there was going to be some definite realism to the CGI.
Now, where did you guys shoot? Can you guys reveal? I think they already have revealed the locations of where you exactly shot the movie, but can you share some of those spots? And were there times, since it was such a big production, that people were driving by and, they would like stop and take photos, or
Definitely.
they'd have to have security to block off things? What was that like?
Yes. I'll let Rick go first with where they shot the National Weather Service, but for sure there was people curious.
New York City plays a role in the movie, and downtown Oklahoma City was a little block of downtown Oklahoma City was transformed into downtown New York City. So they had subway entrances and cabs.
That was Oklahoma City?
That was Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
No way.
Isn't the New York office in Long Island?
Arcade on the subway. Things like that. No. In this movie, the Weather Service office gets a promotion and gets moved to Manhattan. So we're actually,
I was wondering because I thought it was Long Island. Isn't it Long Island?
Really, it's Upton is where the actual forecast office is for New York City. But so downtown Oklahoma City became New York City, and there's a major movie studio here in Oklahoma City. Most people don't know this. It's called Prairie Surf Studios. That was home base or base camp for the entire movie.
Wow.
And they had sound stages. If you look at the Kate's barn, Kate's house, any inside shots, even some of the movie theater shots were inside the Prairie Surf Studios. And it's a huge movie studio there. So that was base camp. The Weather Service scene was shot in buildings called Leadership Square, which was about a half a mile walk from the Prairie Surf Studios. And I got to make that walk that one morning I was there, and it was up on the third floor of that office building. They actually just built a Weather Service office for one day shooting. All the trouble that they went to. So, and it was shot all over the place. Connor was on location with some of these places, but there's little places in the movie. Like there's a spot in the movie where they shut down an entire street in Yukon, Oklahoma, but it's for 5 seconds of a pickup truck driving through it. And it was in December, and while they picked that stretch of road that they needed to have that truck driving on, I'm like, Connor, I'm fascinated by all this stuff. How they scout all that out. But so New York City was downtown Oklahoma City,
which is so neat, so interesting.
Must have been cheaper than actually going to the city.
Oh yeah.
100%.
You'll notice in the New York segment too, it's pretty windy when they're sitting in that coffee shop and you look outside and the trees blowing and the umbrellas outside are blowing. I'm like, I don't know if it gets quite that windy in New York, and especially in Manhattan.
It's going to be so much fun to go back and see it again after knowing this. Like, I'm genuinely excited to go back. I mean, I'm going to see it multiple times anyway, but after hearing this, it's going to be such a cool, different perspective.
Yeah,
it's funny
cool.
too. You say that because we're going to see it again. Like even my work
and again,
got the whole theater for us coming up.
I've seen it 3 times now, and I'm anxious to go see it again.
Really?
Honestly.
I am too. I've seen it a few times, and every time I see it, I see something new.
I saw it last night with my daughter was sitting beside me for the first time, and my wife had seen it. This was her second time. And there's a town called Crystal Springs. Why they changed the name in the movie, I don't know, but that's Chickasha. So you recognize these locations, and the overpass scene, which we'll talk about later, that's near Okarche. So it's just cool knowing where these are. I've been kind of keeping up with a little bit of it, and the ones that I know kind of have a little Google map even that I'm kind of been geeking out about this. It's been a hobby for a while, but
I love you.
It's fun. It's fun.
That's actually why Rick and I
do what?
That's why I was going to tell him. That's why you and I have have been talking so much since the film. Rick and I actually never filmed together. We were never on set at the same time.
Oh,
But
wow.
I think I reached out to you first. But it was like, hey, I know we're under the same NDA, and my wife is really sick of me talking about this. Can we can we talk about the film and talk about everything we know?
That's awesome.
So I know Rick and I were in the same boat when it comes to that.
That's so funny. Oh my gosh.
That's really good. So I'll tell you what, folks, we're about to go to a little video break. But when we come back, first off, I'm going to give you a little warning now. We're actually going to start jumping into spoilers. So if you haven't seen the film yet and you don't want to be spoiled on anything, now coming up, we'll do a warning when we come back. But now would probably be the time to start thinking about heading out. And certainly you can tune us back in, watch us on YouTube, listen to the podcast. Once you've seen the film, you can catch the whole thing if you want. And if you don't care, I've seen Elizabetta's been on, and she said, I don't care. I haven't seen it yet, but I don't care about spoilers. That's fine as well. But here's the fun part. We're going to be taking your phone calls so that you can share with us, if you saw the film, what did you like about the film? What maybe didn't you like about the film? Or if you've got questions for Connor or Rick that you'd like to ask about the film, behind the scenes stuff as well, we're going to be here. So coming back from break, if you can call.
Whoa.
It's my coconut rum starting to get to me. But if you can call 775-278 6767. MJ, if you can put that up on the screen again, 775-278 6767. We got Dan in the back. He's going to be screening the calls and taking your call.
Go, Dan.
And we'll be taking your phone calls. So go ahead and call in, and we will be right back with all this more great stuff from Twisters right after this Stormchaser safety tip.
Operators are still.
It's time for this edition of Stormfront Freaks podcast, Stormchaser Safety Tip.
Join retired Fire Battalion Chief Randy Denzer, EMA Director Eddie Aldring, and Police Officer Eric Fox as we discuss some of the most common Stormchaser safety pitfalls to avoid. All right, so we're talking Stormchaser safety tips. I'm with Randy Denzer. He's a retired Fire Battalion Chief with over 30 years in fire service and a current storm spotter and public safety director for the Spotter Network. We also have Eddie Aldring. He's a former law enforcement officer, current Stormchaser, and director of emergency management for Nemaha County in Kansas. And also Eric Fox, current police officer in Davis, Oklahoma, and a field correspondent for Weather Nation TV. Gentlemen, thanks for coming on. We want to talk a little bit with essential car tools. So talking a lot about preparation, really, not a little. What are some essential car tools that someone should be thinking about and making sure they have in their vehicle? Eric, I'm going to start with you.
The main thing I could think of is a battery backup, right? The one thing is our lifeline is going to be that cell phone. But if you have a car issue or if you get stuck somewhere and you can't get a phone call out to get some help because your battery's dead because we've been on radar all day, it's just something I can think of is my number one is having that extra brick of power that might get you 5 or 6 charges on your phone to get you that help if something happens. You get stuck in the mud, you get broke down, whatever, alternators go out, you may not have power to charge that phone. So that's my number one. My number two item is definitely going to be a way to get your cell phone stuck, i.e. being straps or ways to get out of that mud.
All right, Eddie, I'll go to you next. What might be a number one essential car tool you would want to make sure was in your vehicle?
One thing I carry in my truck when I chase, it's in any tool store, Home Depot, Lowe's, any of those, will have is sort of I call them like a vehicle first aid kit. Has jumper cables, things to change tires with, fix a flat, deals if you know how to use those. Various other tools in those things that can definitely help you repair your car and get you back on the road again. And they actually really aren't too terribly expensive. You can get a very minor one up to a very expensive one that has just about everything you need in it. So that's the main thing that I would recommend everyone get.
Very good. Randy, what have we missed? What's some important car tools or a car tool you'd want to have?
Well, I'll tell you, the number one tool I'd have for safety would be a ANSI traffic vest. I can't say enough that you can't be seen at night unless you're wearing one. It doesn't matter if you're wearing white clothing. Those reflective vests that they sell at Walmart for like $20, $25, something like that. I keep one in the back of my car all the time. If something happens at night and I need to get out, whether it's pulling into a disaster or whether my car breaks down, I have that vest so that people can't see me. That would be my number one tool.
I would say also a flashlight. We all know that we're usually chasing into the darkness. Having at least some sort of a flashlight. The ones on our phones, they're not going to cut it. It can not only be used for yourself, it could also be a way to signal people if you're stuck or injured or roll up onto someone that's in trouble.
Very good. Thanks, gentlemen.
Welcome to Outbreak, a new live stream format brought to you by the Stormfront Freaks podcast, hosted by me, meteorologist Brady Harris, also known as Stormcat 5. We'll go live on days of extreme weather with the goal of keeping you safe, informed, and entertained. The only question that remains is, are you ready for the outbreak?
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Delicious things to eat.
The popcorn can't be beat. The sparkling drinks are just dandy. The chocolate bars and the candy. So let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
All right, welcome back to the show. So this is our Twisters reaction call-in show. And so the one thing I'll share again is our phone number. So if you want to call in with your reviews or you've got questions for Rick or Connor, you can call 775-278-6767. Dan will be taking your call. We'll be bringing you in here as we go. If you're a Patreon member, let Dan know, and we'll kind of shoot you to the front of the line as well. But the one thing I'm going to quick share with everybody right now is our spoiler warning. All right, so we are about to jump into spoilers, everybody. So if you don't want to be spoiled, now's the time to tune out and come back and check us out for the rest of the show after you've seen the film. But the first thing I'm going to do here before we start getting to callers is I want to go just around the horn and get everybody's kind of reaction. Like, you don't need to go into details right now because we'll kind of cover this more as we take calls. But kind of get your feedback on things. And Maz, if you can lead this and kind of go around the horn with everybody, start with our guests, find out what they really thought of the film, and we're going to go ahead and start looking at our callers here in a minute.
Okay, awesome. So my first, I got to ask you this before we start asking other questions. So now that you guys are movie stars, are you going to charge us for your autograph?
No.
I'll pay.
I pay.
I know.
The autograph thing is weird. Since I got on with KFOR, we do these public events with people, and like I was kind of saying earlier, like Okies really are into the event of, some of us are really into the event of like really significant severe weather days, and so we sort of get to a point where people learn our faces and learn our voices, you know, and so like anytime we go to these mall or weather service or these different events around the state, you know, people do come up and they ask for our autographs. So this last year, which I've only been on, like I said, with KFOR for about a year, since actually after the movie is when I got on with KFOR. It's been really weird. Like I'm like, anytime somebody asks for one of them signed face things, I'm like, why do you want this?
Check it out. That's why you're in the movie.
Yeah.
All right. So I got it. You guys are both Oklahomans. And so how do you feel like this movie was? I'm going to start with you guys. I mean, because you guys, I mean, you see tornadoes, you've been in the business too, so you have that extra insight. How was it?
Rick, for sure, go first.
I loved it. I mean, it's a movie. It's not 100% scientifically accurate, but I don't care. I mean, it's not supposed to be. Nobody's going to drop $20 to go see a documentary about storm chasing. So I loved it. I'm so proud of Oklahoma in the movie. Oklahoma looks beautiful.
Look at you, Rick.
Oh,
in the
dude,
movie.
there's Rick.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
When I go back and watch it, that's awesome.
And that's it's weird. That's the trailer, but in the movie, they don't. It's not even that same shot. So you
I noticed that.
Right.
So it's weird, but no, it's Oklahoma looks beautiful in the movie. It makes me proud to live here. I think they did a great job overall. I mean, we can get into the details, but overall, I was very happy. I knew just from dealing with them and talking to them and seeing how they operate that they were trying really hard, and it would be as good as it possibly could be, given you got to have some drama in there. But I liked it.
All right,
it.
so
Like
tell
I
you
said,
what,
I've seen
before
it 3 times, and I'm ready to go back.
I'll go, Rick. Let's go right now.
So I'll tell you what, but
I'll
before
go.
we keep going here, I'm going to bring our first caller in.
Oh, yes.
Bob Pack, who was in the film as well.
Yeah, Bob.
I see Connor already getting ready for this, but we're going to bring in Bob Pack. Bob, welcome to the show. Apparently, you were there with Connor. Is that right?
Unfortunately, I was.
Oh no!
Again, hi everybody.
Hi, Bob.
Yeah, good to see you guys.
Bob.
Yeah, hi. What I wouldn't pay for you and your sister to go laughing together again. You got killed. But no, Connor, this is really for Connor. It's just kind of one of those funny things that we were at Midway. Connor,
Second
do you
gas
remember the scene where? Yeah, you remember the scene where I'm over by Glenn and I'm queuing off Glenn and we all run. I'm jumping in my truck at the gas pump and I'm about to take off and all of a sudden 2 idiots jump in the back of my truck.
Oh,
Do you remember that?
Yes, I knew where you were going with this from when you started talking.
Yeah, Connor was one of them. I don't remember the other guy's name, but I think one of the greatest shots of the movie. We could have had one
It
right
was
there.
Jazz. It was
Because
me
when
and
we-
Jazz, if you'll remember.
Was it?
It was
Okay.
Jazz, yeah.
Well, all I remember is I jump out because I felt my truck bounce twice, and I've got the thing in drive. And I come back and I'm like, pardon me, but I go, who the hell told y'all to jump in the back of my truck? And I think Connor, it was you. You pointed at Kish, and I hollered at Kish and said, "Hey, Kish, we got to talk. This ain't gonna happen."
Kish was he was a background. Kish was our background organizer. So this was the guy. His job was to make sure that us, again, the chasers who didn't have any acting experience, somewhat looked like we knew what we were doing, and we were at least where we were supposed to be. And Kish comes up and he's just trying to get us out of shot, because they want movement and they want to see people, excited and moving in different directions. And Kish was like, run over there to that gas pump and jump in the back of that guy's truck. And I saw it was Bob. And Bob and I had already been hanging out for I think a day or so at that point. And so I was excited about getting a jump on the back of Bob's truck. And so me and Jazz Bishop, who's another chaser in the film, we, in that first take, we run and we both jump right on the back of his truck. Bob gets out and he's like, this ain't gonna work. This is not realistic.
I could see it now too, where
That's
you're like, hey,
amazing.
consistency between every shot. We got to do it every time now. Sorry.
yeah.
Well, they changed that whole scene.
But that would have been a
and
great
Bob
shot,
was like,
for the movie, is me jumping out.
Yeah.
Oh my God,
But
that's
yeah,
so
that was funny. And then, Kish, Kish says, well, why don't you fix it? I'm like, me? Okay, I can fix it. So at the end of the day, what are you drinking, Connor? At the end of the day, we come down. I look and Connor comes. I was like, let's go. We run down to the truck. He gets in like a normal human being. But I'm always going to remember Connor so well because I call him the leader of the pumpkin people. And then when the camo thing we had on, I'm like, what is this guy? First time I saw him, and I was like, what are they doing? Sending him out on a hunting trip or something? He's gonna have a tornado come up. I don't know what the deal was there, but I figured that. He's a fun guy. He's a fun guy. He's so full of it. He's so full of crap. He could open his own public work.
Oh my God, Bob!
Wow.
Well, Bob, I appreciate you calling in. I know you've been busy this week with a lot of stuff as well, but appreciate your stories and appreciate you calling in. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, Bob, you're awesome.
Oh, you bet. You guys have a good week.
Thanks, Bob.
See ya.
All right, I'm going to bring in another individual right now. I see that Charles Peak was in the chat, but we got Charles Peak on the line. Charles, welcome back to the show.
Yes.
How you doing tonight?
Hey, we're doing great. I'm curious what you thought of the film.
Well, I'm not a big movie goer. Kathy and I maybe see 1 or 2 movies a year. So I don't know, my opinion's a little slanted compared to a lot of people, but, I thought it was a good movie. For me, it wasn't this outstanding great one, but that probably has more to do with my biases towards movie. I mean, when you can stay at home and watch Blue Bloods on TV, I mean, why do you need to go to the movie?
Anything stand out for you? Anything stand out?
For me, when I was on the show helping people, and I was encouraged that was worked into the movie. It was not just about the science, but also the aspect of going back and actually for the chasers to go back and help the people.
That's nice.
At one point in time, Kathy whispered over to me, and she says, I wish we could get up in front of the whole group at the end and tell them about Samaritan's Purse, how they can go help them after the tornadoes as well. But, that was a big thing for me. And as many said, Rick and others, I know played a key part in doing this, but, to get the meteorology for the most part right, good terminology, those types of things. And obviously the graphics were wonderful.
Yeah, they were. Very true.
Well, Charles, appreciate you calling in with your
Charles.
thoughts on the film. It's always great to hear from you and hope to see you soon.
Charles, you're awesome.
Y'all stay safe out there now.
All right.
You're the best. Thanks
right,
for calling
see ya.
in. Oh my God, I love them.
All right, Maz, why don't you keep going around the horn with some reviews here?
I mean, I was going to say, so I want to go back to Rick for a second too, because I mean, we've all seen these epic disaster movies and they're tough. It's tough to get natural disaster type stuff accurate. But Rick, how did you feel? I mean, obviously you're in the movie too, so you have a different look and you're a meteorologist. But tell me, how did you feel like it all fit together?
Great question.
I thought it was very effective. One of the things I liked, and I know one of the things that people that were knowledgeable were questioning when this movie was being in the early stages, was the selection of Lee Isaac Chung to be the director. Lee Isaac Chung had directed Minari and some other very small scale, independent, personal level movies, and him directing a major blockbuster disaster movie. People were like, well, how is that going to work? And but if you watch the movie, the personal part of it, the people part of it, and that the core of the story is Kate. Everybody talks about Glenn Powell, and yeah, he looks awesome in a white t-shirt in the rain.
When it's raining, don't forget it's raining.
Awesome.
But it's Kate's movie to me. It's Kate's movie, Daisy Edgar Jones, and it's her PTSD, the event that happens at the beginning of the movie. And I've got to tell you, I've sat through it 3 times, and every time I know it's going to happen, and I'm dreading it. It's just horrible what goes on under that overpass. And having been out chasing before, you can kind of feel that feeling of hopelessness, helplessness. What do we do? That we can't go that way, we can't go this way, we don't see the tornado.
Yeah.
And then how that affects her throughout the entire movie, the tight shots of her in the swimming pool at the rodeo as the tornado is hitting, and you can just feel what she's feeling. I mean, to me, that first scene is hard to watch, but that sets the stage for the whole movie. And that's the kind of the journey that main character is on. And that sets it apart for me from just a disaster movie where here's another tornado. I mean, there is a journey that she goes on, and I really appreciated that.
Rick, who knew you were like Siskel and Ebert? You were awesome.
I know, he is awesome.
I got all kinds of stuff here, so.
Rick
All
is
right.
so awesome.
So, Serena, you've seen. I'm sure you remember the first time you saw Twisters 1.
Oh yeah.
And the anticipation of Twisters 2 had been built. I mean, was it like 30 years? Is that how long it's been?
Yeah, it was 96.
Right? From 96 to 2024.
So did it meet your expectations? And tell me, what did you like most? Like, what do you like? Oh, for me, it was this.
Yeah. It was great. I walked into it knowing I'd have to disconnect the meteorologist from the viewer. And I was pleasantly surprised by how infrequently I actually had to do it. So I've been telling everybody, this is within my top 3 movies of they're going to do sequels, that I'm there on opening day, front row center. And I was. I was incredibly impressed with it. There's a few things where my brain's been, I've been digging back, and I'm about to pull the cloud physics book off the shelf, actually, because there's one thing I'm about to dig into. And I'm like, actually, that's a latent heat release, not absorption and cool. And my brain's struggling with one thing. But otherwise, I was very impressed with how well it was done meteorologically. And after talking to Connor and Rick, you can see the work that was put into it shine through. Now, major blockbuster, yeah. Some things about the ending, okay, whatever. But 95% of that film, I'm like, yes, I am here and I'm in, and this is amazing.
Well, that's the same thing with the first movie. You have to sort of suspend belief for the end of the first movie too. As much as we love Twister.
Yeah. I feel like for the first one,
yeah.
For the first one, I had to do it a little more. So it was impressive. I feel like there was a change, right? Because the first one, it's like, oh my God, if they'd only talked to a meteorologist, like it almost felt a little bit like that with the first one in someone's. And this one, it's like, okay, they did. I mean, they did. And you could see that.
Right.
All right. Hey, we got some more callers. Sorry. Oh, go ahead, Rick. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say like Kevin Kelleher was a consultant on both. He got involved much earlier in the process on this one. So by the time they involved people from the Severe Storms Lab and Harold Brooks and other people for Twister in 95, when they were shooting it, they were already pretty far down the road with the script. They were beyond the point of making big changes, I think. So
I believe it.
So this time, Kevin was there from the very beginning, and that I can see the difference.
So, hey, before we take the next caller, just we've got a number of callers, so we'll be getting to you folks. On that was one of the only things about the movie personally for me that I was like, I wonder how this is really going to go over to the general public. Was I thought there was maybe they overdid it.
Yeah.
On the weather terminology and the chasing terminology, there were parts where it's like every time they went to him, it's just all these terms. Boom.
But it was cool, man. It was cool.
Yeah, it was good.
Like the weather nerds. It was just.
Which again, I'm not saying for me. I enjoyed that, and I was trying to process and go, is that right? Does that sound right? Yep, sounds right. Looks right. But I think they're good. But I also thought, wow, what's the average person that's trying to see a summer blockbuster? Is there maybe a little too much of that for that individual? I don't know.
It's hard for us to judge because I think it seemed pretty basic to us, obviously. But I just know the list I gave them, and there was no her, there was no using tornado as a verb.
Fujiwara? Was there any Fujiwara in that?
Oh, the Fujiwara,
Fujiwara.
But think about it. We watch movies with doctors, and they have terms all the time. It doesn't bother me.
The more we expose people to these terms, the better, I think. But
I thought that when people were picking this apart, saying some of the dialogue was cheese, I think some of that is like when they're talking about, well, that could be an EF1 or an EF5 or whatever. I know that seems like, and it's mostly chasers that are picking some of that apart. It's like, we wouldn't necessarily 100% talk that way, but you have to realize that, like you said, 95% of the people seeing this movie from around the world aren't going to have any idea what these terms really mean. So they have to ground you in the plot. And any nitpicks about the plot itself, I mean, that's the hook of the movie. If you really want to 100% know what storm chasing is like, you'd watch a documentary. If you want to watch a movie to be entertained, I think it walks that line perfectly myself.
Yeah. And they did have to walk a line because talking to Isaac and other people in the production, it was cool because they knew they were making a blockbuster, not a blockbuster. They knew they were making a movie for everybody to go see. But more than one person told me, we also know that all of you people here in the National Weather Center and all of this community is going to be watching it. They told me that, multiple people independently.
Yeah.
They know you're watching it too. So they needed
Yep.
to get it right for both audiences. And that's tough to kind of balance that level of complexity with the language.
Well, they did a good job. When I saw ER, I learned what a subdural hematoma was just by watching the show. So there's a lot of people. I watched because I saw the movie today before our show tonight, and I saw there's probably about 30 people, and they're weather enthusiasts. So there's some people and they're talking about capes. You know, they're going, I don't see anybody wearing capes. What are they talking about? You know, but they're going to learn over time. They're like, oh, that's jargon. I got it right. You know. So anyway, all right. Do you have another caller for us?
We got another caller. Tyler's been hanging on for a little while. Tyler Hudson, what do you got for the group? Welcome,
Tyler. It's good to hear you.
How's everyone doing tonight?
We're doing great. Thanks for calling. Yeah. What do you got?
Tyler's another one of my favorite people.
Yes, he's a good man.
So I've been geeking about this. Yeah, so I've been geeking about this movie with Connor for the last day or so, really forever. But I'm the biggest Twister fan on the planet. I think everyone that follows me on Facebook can attest to that.
Woo.
So when I got to watch this movie last night, it was such a surreal experience. I was talking about that first scene earlier, and I actually had tears in my eyes because it was just so visceral. Especially like once all of her colleagues are getting swept away, and it was just hard to watch. But there are three different parts of the movie that like really stood out to me. The first being that the Javi and Kate backing up scene is just so reminiscent of the Joe and Bill driving through the ditch scene, which lives in my head rent-free every day. I love that scene so much. So watching that, even on the IMAX screen, was just such an incredible experience. I was just geeking out, hitting my mom next to me the entire time, just laughing silly. And so that was probably my favorite scene of the movie. But actually, my other favorite scene is probably when Kate is going through her barn at her childhood home, where she's going through all of her, meteorology notebooks, and she has a tornado simulator. And that's probably the most represented I've ever felt, because I come from a meteorology background. I studied severe weather in college, and I don't know, I'm not studious about a lot of things, but I'm extremely studious when it comes to tornadoes and severe weather. And I actually have a tornado simulator that I built as well. So I was just like, man, this is so freaking cool. Yeah. And so, and I guess my final thoughts are that the credits actually really surprised me, because it was like this whole movie was really emotional for me. Yeah. So it was really emotional for me, but seeing Tetsujida's drawings and his animations just on that big screen, I was like, man, if only he could have been here watching this, I wonder what he would have thought about it, because a lot of the stuff we wouldn't have known about if it wasn't for him. So it's just such a full circle moment. So I feel like this movie was just such an incredible experience.
I love that, Tyler.
Well, Tyler, thanks for calling in. You talk about the end credits. I was watching another Twisters review on YouTube earlier today, and they referenced it, the fajita scale.
I had those tonight.
Really? Oh no,
they don't know what they're talking about.
So cool. So hey, Tyler, appreciate you calling in and sharing your thoughts on the film. Thanks for tuning in.
Tyler, you're awesome.
Thanks for having me on.
That's awesome.
All right,
Awesome.
take care, Tyler.
Kind of an
Okay, so I
interesting-
got a question for everybody here, and I don't care who answers on this one. Everybody has movie lines from the first Twister that's kind of their favorite, or they know, whether it's cows. We got cow. Yeah, everybody's got something. is there something that stands out in this movie for you all? I know you've all seen it once so far, so maybe not, but is there something that kind of stands out movie line wise for anybody?
When she said, "I'm not back," I was like,
oh yeah, that was great.
I was like,
Yes,
yes.
I caught that as well. That was a good
Yes.
Easter egg.
Loved it.
I think one for me, and I definitely am misquoting it, but it was something like storm chasing is part science, part religion.
Yes.
I feel like this movie captures the essence of, it's a weather nerd movie and it's a storm chaser movie, and I feel like it captures the essence of both so well. And like the gas station scene where they're all hanging at the gas station, that was unbelievable. So I mean,
did anybody get a flat at that gas station?
Yeah,
We
probably
did.
not. But it just felt like it captured the essence of everything, and so that was probably my favorite quote. Is, I don't know. I think, Connor, and that was one of the questions I was going to ask you too later. Was was the Storm Chasers? How did they consult you guys a lot? And I'm sure they did, because it felt like they just captured the essence there. But anyway.
Yes, definitely. And that was from early on, like day one, the first 6 hours of shooting. I knew almost immediately that this was like the Storm Chaser movie. I didn't realize it had the heart and some of the themes that it had until much later on, which only excited me more. But that from day one, the equipment to the terms to the vibe to the chaser convergence at the gas station, it was just like, I could tell that it was a kind of a reflection of modern day storm chasing.
I felt like I was chasing.
Hollywood.
I mean, I don't know about you. I literally felt like I was on the storm chase with them, and I was taken back to like a month ago. Yeah.
That was intentional. That was the set was very open, and that was what was unusual about this. Talking to the actors, right? Not the main actors so much, but the extras that were playing storm chasers. They were saying, look, that we've been on sets before. I've never seen such an open set where we were just walking around this parking lot for 12 hours, hanging out with the stars, hanging out with the production, and talking about tornadoes, talking about storm chasing, talking about our experience of storm chasing. What would you be doing, if you had 30 minutes to hang out in between, chasing or whatever? And that was very intentional. And everything there, it was unusual, and the people that I was talking to, that atmosphere was cultivated. They wanted it to feel like a bunch of storm chasers hanging out in a parking lot, and that's exactly what it was.
It's so awesome.
So Dina, I gotta ask you this, because I saw you little mention something there in the chat too. There, in Twisters 1, there was a lot of Van Halen or Van Hagar, right, in that movie. So I had to say, one of the things that I was thinking of was, I love the music in this too.
We did too.
Yeah.
So tell me about your impression, Dina, because I saw some of the stuff you guys were talking about.
Well, when he comes in and he's blasting the music through this, like the big speakers on top of the truck, I'm like, we were blasting music, but it was inside the car, and we were doing Nickelback, like Burn It to the Ground. And we're like taking movies out the window going, burn it to the ground. But, we didn't have big speakers out of the car, but it made me laugh, and it made me, and so of course I have to turn that on my way home. And I was about to call Serena, but I was laughing.
Oh my God.
Oh, it was great.
Those are good songs. Like, I'm buying the album. Like,
bangers. They're bangers.
It's a fantastic album.
Oh
yeah.
I've been listening to it on repeat, like Miranda Lambert, Lainey Wilson. Like, there are so many good songs on. The soundtrack's on repeat for me right now.
They're all original too, and if you listen to them, all of them have themes of storms and weather and tornadoes.
So home in Oklahoma.
Yes, and they were so regional. Yeah. I mean,
that song, I can't remember the artist, but the scene where it's the day after Kate's failure on the first chase, and Tyler's standing out there, and she walks out and says, "This is another Twister callback, I think. Can I go get you a cold drink?" It sounds like what Bill's fiance says to him. Yeah. And then she knows she's not going to. And then the song they play about boys are too easy.
Yes, I love that song.
Great.
Yeah, perfect placement of that song.
So good. So good. Oh my God. So amazing. It may be the best soundtrack of all time.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'll tell you what, hey, we got a couple more calls here I want to take before we go to break. One is from Elizabetta is calling in. She follows us quite a bit, and I think she had some questions on locations and stuff for Rick and Connor. So welcome to the show, Elizabetta.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
We are great.
Awesome.
So what kind of questions did you have on the footage?
Oh, I was just wondering, like, I know I kind of jumped in late, so I apologize, but I was wondering if you guys had any like actual footage of storms or anything on the movie, because I know like Supercell, they had Pecos Hank's footage from his storm chasing. So I was wondering if you guys had any features of any storm chasing footage.
Great question.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Storm chasers.
I know that production worked with Sean Casey, and Sean Casey went out with them, not actors, that they weren't shooting scenes, but they were just gathering video. So I know they were out on June 15th chasing. That was a big severe weather day. They went out to Western Oklahoma, and Lee Isaac Chung actually went out on one of those chases with Sean Casey.
Oh, that's awesome.
One of the things about the movie, I've seen it 3 times, and there's still scenes where I'm not sure if that's a real storm, if that's a real wall cloud, or if that's like there's a scene where they're driving and the trees are blowing in the wind. That has to be real, but I
think it is real.
Yeah. So they did get some real. There is some real stuff in there. I don't think they got a real tornado, but there's real storms. But it just is seamless how they intersperse it.
Exactly.
So the footage that they got, did they have to, like, was it some of it from Stormchasers? Did they have to get permission? How did that all work?
No, I think it was like Rick said, all Sean Casey's stuff that you see sprinkled throughout the film, and then the end credits is just a combination of so many different things that, I'm sure they got permission for those. But through the film, the shots of actual, vistas with storms. I think that was all Sean from what I heard. Yeah.
I can tell you they had to get permission for every little thing because they had to get permission for the NOAA logo to appear. Wow. I just signed a release this afternoon to use video that they shot during the class that we taught for the DVD extras, for the behind the scenes, for the.
Oh, that's so cool.
Oh, that's so cool.
I'm so buying a DVD.
That's so cool.
So they were really like one of the things I was disappointed in the movie, and nobody else would ever know this, is they came to visit the office and they picked our office apart. They took pictures of our badges, of the pencils on the desk, they analyzed maps, and they came in my office and they saw a picture that my daughter had drawn when she was like 7 years old, and it's of a tornado family. So the dad is the F5, the mom is this is before the EF scale. And they were like, oh my God, we have to have that for the movie. So my daughter had to sign a release form for Universal Pictures.
Oh my God.
I don't remember where that was.
In Kate's bedroom.
Cha-ching.
Cha-ching. It was like,
so you didn't see
give us this picture and we're going to use it in perpetuity, and you're getting nothing out of it. But even that, even a little thing like that, a pencil drawn picture that was in my office, you had to get
that's
a release for. So
did you say it didn't make it in the film, Rick?
I didn't see it. No, Kate.
I don't remember seeing it either.
Kate's bedroom in the movie is kind of not a kid's bedroom anymore. It's like a giant.
Yeah, but there is a lot of stuff.
There's a lot of stuff. There's more stuff in the barn. And
now we're all going to be like searching for it.
Yeah, I am now for sure.
Yeah,
I know. We're just got to try and find it.
Let me know because
all right. Hey, I'm going to jump to another caller. Nicholas Isabella, Stormchaser out of New York, was in the chat earlier, but we got him on the call as well. Nicholas, welcome, and what did you think about the film?
I thought it was an amazing movie.
Yeah.
I think it was the perfect mix to resonate with storm chasers and the general public.
Yeah.
We all like to nitpick the weather scenes, but if you really want a successful Hollywood blockbuster, which in my opinion this is going to be, you have to Hollywood it up a little bit, which I think was fine. I thought a scene or two was a little over the top, but I really didn't have any issues with it. Even the first Twister movie, as Storm Chasers, we like to nitpick little things in the movie. And one of my favorite scenes of this movie is when they were in the shed, Tyler and Kate, and he says something along the lines of, well, when we look at a tornado, we don't know the EF scale until the National Weather Service rates it. And in the original twist, half the movie is just pointing at the sky saying that's an EF2, that's an EF3, you know. So I like that.
That's a good call out.
I really thought the terminology in the movie was on point too. And there was little nods to the SBC. Like at one point, they had the mesoscale analysis page up on their laptop.
That was so cool.
Yeah. It was really cool.
There was a few little things thrown in there, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, I think this was such a well done movie.
Have you seen it more than once yet?
Not yet. I only saw it once. I actually saw it on Tuesday night. Universal had a special screening in New York City. So I attended that, but I'm going again on Saturday to see it. I'm excited to see it again.
Cool.
Sometimes the first time you see it, you miss something. It's always good to see it again, you know.
And again,
See if
and
you
again.
can find that picture. See if you can
Especially
find
after
that
watching this
picture.
show, everyone should go rewatch it after some of the stuff Rick and Conrad's. I mean, it's just
I did enjoy the New York City scene because when they were crossing the street with the yellow taxi, I kind of recognized right away that wasn't actually New York City.
You would know.
Because they were too nice.
Cool. Well, Nicholas, thanks for calling in, man. It's good to hear from you, and good luck with the tropical season. Yeah, we'll see you, brother.
All right.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what. We still got Randy, Logan, Jeffrey on as well. We're going to take a quick break, but we're going to be back with more of your calls and more of our reviews right after this. So stay tuned.
The Stormfront Freaks is now available on the Weather Store. Come shop our catalog of shirts, hats, and hoodies, all with our Stormfront Freaks logo and Outbreak logo. Plus, you'll find all your other favorite weather geek and storm chasing gear, footwear, and accessories. Visit the Weather Store at thewxstore.com, the exclusive supplier of the Stormfront Freaks.
Don't miss Vintage Stormfront Freaks.
This one here, we do have a few dents in the new Suburban, but my truck, that hood's a trophy.
You might as well put 2 GoPros on there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's what it looks like.
So I'm like, I'm going to drive this thing into a tornado, and then they all start laughing.
Good. You'll be the only sober one by the end of the night.
Hey, this is meteorologist Jim Cantori from the Weather Channel. I am a weather geek, and I am listening to the Stormfront Freaks podcast. You should too.
Let's take a drive under the somber sky. Let's take a drive under the moon.
All right, so we're back in our Twisters review or Twisters reaction. I guess what we're doing, but I'm going to do this again just because I want to make sure everyone knows. This is our spoiler warning.
Spoilers.
So we are in the middle of just talking about everything about the film. So again, if you don't want to be spoiled, haven't seen it yet, then go ahead and turn us off and bring us back in and watch us later, listen to us later after you've seen the film. But I'm going to go quick before we get going on other things. I've got Randy, Logan. They've been waiting for a while. Fuzzy is on as well. So I'm going to bring in Randy Jennings. Woo. Randy had some questions. Randy, welcome to the show. You got something about survivor's guilt? You got questions for Rick?
Yeah, so let me say I love the film. You know, even though I didn't have Jen Watson sitting next to me like I did at the Supercell premiere, it was still a great film. CGI was fantastic.
I love you, Randy.
They clearly did their homework. You could see the fluid dynamics at play. They clearly watched that, and I loved it. Yeah. But, you know, one of the big kind of sub-themes in this film was survivor's guilt. And there was one scene in it later in the movie where they are chasing, and they quit chasing so they can go warn the people in the town ahead of them. Yeah. And that reminded me of an experience I had back April 13th, 2019. I was chasing near Alto, Texas, behind the supercell producing a tornado, and we got cut off from it. We couldn't get through town. There was some minor damage on that side of town, but all the roads were blocked. And we kind of talked to some of the survivors and said, hey, there's another storm coming, but we repositioned. And we went back out Highway 21 the same way we came in, and we talked, and we passed by the Caddo Mounds Historical Site, where they were having a Caddo Cultural Day festivities, and there were lots of people there. And my chase partner, Chadwick Stolzel, said, hey, should we stop and warn them? And I said, no, they won't listen to us anyway. And we went on down the road, turned south, got out of the way of the next cell. It becomes tornado warn, produced an ES3, killed a person at that site, 20 people injured. The archaeologist became a quadriplegic. And I kind of said, well, hey, we've done everything we could. Now, I got over it. We'd been making reports all day long to the Weather Service, and I don't think it's realistic for you to stop and warn a town. That's not our job as storm spotters or chasers. But I know that's a real thing that chasers need to be prepared for. And I know meteorologists have got to go through that. I know Rick's talked a little bit about that. And I know that, the great people at the Weather Service, I'm sure, go through those feelings of, what if I had done this? And maybe he'd like to talk a little bit about that in that theme of the movie.
Yeah, that somebody mentioned earlier being, having maybe getting a little dusty in the room or tearing up a little bit. The opening scenes with the overpass and just seeing how Kate changes after that. She's so happy and young and energetic, and then after that happens, she's never the same. And you don't have to go through being in a tornado under an overpass or having friends, the horrible things that happen to her friends and her boyfriend. Meteorologists have that, chasers have that. We talked about that at ChaserCon this past year. That it's a real thing, the PTSD, the stress, the critical incident stress. And to me, that was one of the strong points of the movie. And you just see her evolution through that, and you never get completely over that, but just the guilt, the what if, the could I have done more, there's all of that. And that's something we're really coming to grips with a little bit more in the weather community in general, the Weather Service, the TV meteorology world. You can't save everybody. I mean, the picture that's on the screen there now, the Rodeo Motel. Right. I mean, and I don't know if everybody knows it, but the guy that's driving this pickup right now, that's such a jerk in that motel lobby, is Bill Paxton's son.
Yes.
That's his cameo.
Wow. No way.
Yeah, James Paxton.
That is so cool.
He had a really cool role. He's a real jerk, and then him and the lady that's with him that's saying 9 times out of 10 it's a false alarm, and then it's so realistic. I mean, we hear that all the time. But just that Kate trying to save them, and every little thing like that. I mean, meteorologists, everybody, whether you're on the Weather Channel or local television, or you're doing this online or whatever, our job is, our goal is to try to save people when you can't.
Right.
It adds up. So to me, I guess that's just struck a chord with me, because I felt those feelings. I had those issues, and I know everybody does, whether they know it or not, whether they admit it or not. So Kate's story was just so powerful.
Yeah, you know what? And I was Liz Laitman at SPC posted on Twitter recently, can't wait for y'all to see Twister, because there's a plot point I'm dying to discuss. I love the director used this very real thing that happens to survivors in the aftermath of disasters as one of the big bad plot points. And I was like, join the show tonight and talk to us. And she's working tonight. But it was a really, really good point. And I think it's going to make for a very interesting discussion after the fact. And I like that a lot of people are picking up on it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm guessing a lot of people go through. I mean, think doctors who lose a patient, or people in the war when their buddies are killed and they're left. I'm sure that's very, very real across a spectrum of vocations.
But what's weird about the weather community is I do the same thing. I look and see, well, I couldn't have PTSD because I wasn't in the war. I'm not one of the firemen pulling victims out of the rubble. I'm not getting shot at. But it's real. I mean, meteorologists, storm chasers, you can have it, this can impact you. So it is real. And this is just I was so glad to see it, another example of just showing the weather community that it's not just, PTSD is not just for those first responders. I mean, it can impact anybody.
I mean, we've had people on here before who said that they fought depression over it. I think it was Aaron, if I'm correct, but he said, when you see horrific things like that, and a lot of times these guys are isolated and by themselves, and he said it's really hard to fight depression over these things. So
yeah,
you're completely right. It's got to be kind of scary.
Yeah.
And I also like how they brought up, how she says 9 times out of 10, it's not going to happen, which is just a constant struggle for us forecasters, the National Weather Service office on TV, because you just don't know which storm truly is going to produce a tornado or not. And I've been through it before. I remember when covering a derecho during the series finale of ER, not the season, the series finale, and the amount of people just calling and blasting in and just destroying you. It's so difficult. I like that she mentioned that, because every meteorologist I feel probably cringed and no, that's not how
it speaks to the dismissive attitude that some people have. And that's a struggle that I know meteorologists, TV meteorologists, people who work at the Weather Service, storm trackers, whatever. If we're on social media, or if we're out there telling people hey, bad weather's coming, this sort of demonizes that dismissive attitude in that scene. And that was, I believe, the purpose of it is for her to, they're dismissive. They're not taking it seriously. It's a false alarm. And then, because it actually cuts, she'll say 9 times out of 10, it's a false alarm. And then it cuts to the rodeo outside being destroyed.
Which
that's back to her to show the ignorance and the mistake of being dismissive about something so impactful.
Which I loved about that. That whole scene, I was just it was a great.
Jen, you love the fact that truck went flying into the tornado and they were.
No. I did. I was like, yes. No, but it's just, showcasing that.
Hey, so we got another caller. I'm going to go to Logan. Is calling in. Logan, thanks for joining the show.
Hi, Logan.
You've got you want to talk about the homage it paid to the original? Is that right?
Ooh.
Yes, when I saw that this movie was coming out, I knew it was going to be a perfect sequel to the original Twister movie.
Ooh.
Because I feel like the two leads play a perfect modern day representation of Bill and Joe, and the dodges that they use. It just brings back that 4-year-old in me that had me jumping up and down watching and seeing Dorothy again.
That was good.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. They even dressed Kate in the same outfits that Joe wore. It was pretty incredible. The similarities that they tried to do there.
They called the outfits illusions. You're alluding to, I mean, so much of this, they use the word spiritual successor so often.
Wow.
That was at the core. Yeah.
Is Serena an illusion then? Because
yes.
What the?
Yeah, that's true.
So what?
Oh my God.
Logan, did you catch any other, I guess, Easter eggs from the original film? Did you catch anything else?
I saw the El Reno water tower, which got me pretty excited.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was definitely an homage to Okita's water tower, wasn't it?
But it's its own iconic thing now. I mean, people are going to be taking pictures in front of the El Reno water tower for years to come.
It's true. This is very true.
Yep. Right. Well, Logan, hey, thanks for calling in. Glad you enjoyed the film.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks,
Talk to you guys
Logan.
later. Have a good night.
All right.
Thanks,
thanks.
Logan.
You too, Logan.
So on that note, I guess what other Easter eggs did you guys catch? I tried to note. I think we've kind of covered most of the ones that I caught. I did realize they didn't have any cows. Did you guys see any flying cows or any cows?
They had a chicken. Remember the chicken?
The chicken.
Oh,
Chicken. Yeah.
Scared me.
I saw interviews with the director that said the post-production people were trying to sneak a flying cow in there constantly. And so somewhere in there, and I haven't caught it yet, there is a cow, a picture of a cow on something flying through the air.
Oh, really?
So he was like, we'll let it go.
Wait to look at that.
That's so fun.
I just remember the
look
chicken,
for.
and I remember myself and the other meteorologist, we went, we've got chickens. We both said it at the same time. And it was like we planned it.
Oh my God.
We both got that. We both got that.
Hey, I did catch. I just thought of it now. I didn't write it down, but I thought of it when they were in the barn and they were going through Kate's notebooks and all that stuff. Did you realize there was a sticker from Muskogee State College?
Oh wow!
Muskogee State was all over the place. Yeah.
Yes, the whole opening
one
scene.
sticker. Okay.
No,
The
no,
whole
yeah,
opening
the opening scene. Yeah.
Yep, they were
They're
all students from Muskogee State.
Yeah,
Yep,
No,
every
it's,
single one of
it's
them.
on the van where they're chasing at the beginning, and I
thought I
heard
had this
that
brilliant
OU was
Easter
supposed to
egg
be a
I
bigger
saw.
part of this.
I guess not.
You were
Phil, it was
supposed to be an
awesome.
OU student
Get
in
it,
the
Phil.
earlier versions, but OU
Oh, really?
didn't participate for some reason, so they just stuck with Muskogee State. Yeah.
Muskogee State and Dorothy became the anchors of the universe, and that's what they were talking about.
Exactly.
The fact that Dorothy and Muskogee State are in there is, again, that all that does is solidify in the canon that the original story happened. It's in its own contained box, so it stands and falls on its own like the sequel. But you can't deny that it's the same universe, and the universe being, an Oklahoma tornado outbreak cranked up to 11. But the fact that that Dorothy is in there is again, she's supposed to be the anchor in that universe.
Oh, I love that, Connor.
No,
What,
totally really cool.
what did you guys think of the technology, like the radars they use? Like, what was your guys' impression of that? Because I know I recognize a couple of things where I'm like, hey, I've seen that radar before. I've seen that application, which is pretty cool to see. I don't know, Rick, if you have anything to weigh in on that.
Right. Yeah, they paid a lot of attention. If you remember from the original Twister, I mean, some of the radar displays, it was like a clear air velocity loop or something. This one, if you pay close attention when you're watching it, when they're chasing that first storm they're chasing and it's developing, when you look at the radar display, when they flashed a radar or GR or whatever that is in their vehicle, it's a core as it would look for a developing storm.
Right.
And so the storm, Sean and Kevin intentionally, the radar images are in the right location.
Yeah.
And more importantly, they are representative of what they're really looking at. If they're looking at a mature supercell with a big tornado, then there may be a big fat hook on there. But like in the early parts of the storms, there's several times where you just see a core, just like you would. And then another thing, one of the key plot points is the storm PAR group, and PAR is phased array radar.
Yeah.
And there's no such thing as those miniaturized phased array radars, but the face of that radar, when they pull those radars out of the back of the vehicles and mount, stick them down to the ground, that looks exactly like the face with all the sensors of the actual phased array radar. So
that light up.
That's based on reality, but there's no. Obviously, they don't have those portable ones.
Not yet.
Not yet. Yeah, not yet.
But he did make the mention that the military came up with the smaller version.
Yeah.
So
prototypes.
It could exist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't
know.
know.
I loved it because it was like they were like phased arrays. And the other thing I really liked too was, back in 2003, I was working with Dr. Biggerstaff where we were getting hurricane data with multiple mobile Doppler radars. So you're painting a more than a two-dimensional photograph of the storm. And we were doing this in 2003 with placing multiple, mobile Dopplers in different landfall spots to watch landfall and hurricane. And so that tugged at my heartstrings and took me way back. And it's like, it's those kind of things that made the science legitimate enough where I'm like, that's literally looks like a phased array radar. The way they're doing this makes sense. Now, being within 300 meters of a tornado threw me back out of reality again. For a second. Otherwise, they did such a good job with that kind of stuff. They really did.
Too, how they, in Twister, getting Dorothy to get those sensors up in the tornado was such a big deal. But this time it was just this old thing that they couldn't get. Hobby said, be gentle with it. And then he bangs it with his fist. And but then it opens up and the sensors go up and it's just like, it's not that big of a deal. And it's almost like the debris signatures now that we're tracking on radar, the higher that those sensors got in the tornado, that was an indication of how intense the tornado was. So when it got to 40, 50, 60, 70, Hobby was saying, oh my God, this is much bigger than we thought it was. It was just interesting how it did connect you to the previous movie, but it was just it was clear that they had used this a lot since then. And they knew exactly how to interpret the data.
So I have to bring up,
no, you go ahead.
Oh, thanks, Vance. So I'm interested how you feel about this, Rick and Connor, but everyone, kind of changing the subject a little bit, focusing in on chaser convergence. And after this movie, shooting up fireworks in a tornado and like driving right into it with not an armored vehicle. I felt like I love the movie so much, and it's so incredibly well done, but then also makes me nervous that people are going to do those types of reckless things. And I mean, even when I started chasing, it was back in like 2004, it was getting bad, it just keeps getting worse and worse. But I don't know how you both feel about that.
I think it's going to be bad in 2025 myself.
Yeah. What do you think this movie's going to create, Connor? Like what after seeing this movie, what's the thing that the Stormchase community and maybe the less veterans that know what they're doing are gonna want to do now because they've seen this film? What do you think those things would be?
The fireworks,
dude. The fireworks.
I know.
It'll probably be Timmer. Timmer will probably be the first one to drive into a tornado and shoot a firework through it.
Yeah, I know.
I'm okay with anything like the movie, but I know that's going to happen. And honestly, I mean,
it would be kind of cool to see.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. I mean, it's not going to serve any sort of purpose besides self-indulgence.
You just put a sensor on it. No, just put a sensor on it. There you go. That's science.
It'll blow up.
Like if someone does that, who's responsible? Well, responsible.
Yeah.
Like I love Reed. Like someone who's a veteran who knows what they're doing. Like I'm okay with that. I just get nervous about the uneducated ones that are inspired to chase by the movie and get themselves accidentally in trouble or are speeding around because we know they speed a lot too. So
here's my other fear. We've got another caller I want to go to here in a second. Here's my other fear on that I was thinking about as well.
Yeah, there
was a lot of Tyler was doing a lot of driving around in the fields.
Yes,
he wasn't staying on the road. He's just going to somebody's field, and I'm like, oh God, don't teach that. What?
Yes. And how did he not hit a fence? Like they all have, a lot of them have fences.
Yeah.
Corn. We've got corn.
Yeah. For me, I think with the movie, it was like, okay, are people going to be more or less likely to chase? Because one thing I think the movie did really well was I think it actually catastrophized the weather very well. And actually there were some parts of it that were damn scary. Like even for me, I was like, this is terrifying.
It was very real.
So part of me was like, God, I hope this helps to like subdue that urge to make people not do it. But then it also gives that false representation of like driving through fields. Like, no, you can't do that. Just driving into a tornado.
Really in a Dodge truck.
Yeah. Right, exactly. So it's like, I don't know so it's going to be interesting to see what happens because it's a bit of the scale for me. I'm like, okay, I could see this dissuading people, but I think what's going to end up happening is it's going to get more people interested.
Yeah.
I think so too.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
All right, well, tell you what, we got one more caller here. Fuzzy is calling in. It's always good
Fuzzy.
to hear from
Fuzzy.
Fuzzy.
We love you, Fuzzy.
Did you get a chance to see the movie, Fuzzy?
No, I wish. I'm going to see it tomorrow night or Saturday. Depends on.
Here's how it ends.
My dad's feeling.
No.
Yes.
So did you?
Give me spoilers. Give me all.
What question did you have for us?
Well, before I get my questions, it's an honor to be able to talk to you guys.
It's always good to hear from you, man.
Fuzzy, it's great for you to be here. I'm just glad. I'm glad you're here.
We love you, Fuzzy.
Yeah.
I love you guys too. Brady, you're killing it on Outbreak.
Yes, good job, Brady.
Awesome.
So, what's your question?
Okay, so my question is kind of for. It was for Rick, but I'm like, I go from Rick and Connor for this. So, Rick, I've been a fan of you for 11 years. I've been watching Brother Brains for.
Oh.
And my question was, what was your worst ever day working in the office?
It's a great question.
Wow, that's always a hard question to answer because there's different. There's different levels of that. I mean, obviously, the worst day I can remember, where the only time I've ever thought, well, why do we live here? Why am I working here? Was May 31st, 2013, when we saw the El Reno tornado, when we saw what it was doing, And what really triggered that was seeing the traffic on the roads and knowing that we might be about to witness a catastrophic event with people, multiple fatalities and things like that. So that's probably the lowest moment or the lowest point. And plus that was the end of an exhausting stretch of severe weather. So if I had to pick an event, a day, a moment, it's probably that one, May 31st, 2013.
Cool. Well, Fuzzy, thanks for calling in. It's always good to hear from you.
Thanks, Fuzzy.
All right.
Thank you,
take care. Have
Fuzzy.
a great night and go see the movie. It's awesome.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes, I will.
Good. All right. Take care.
Bye, Fuzzy.
Hey guys, I had a question for you. So, I mean, we have some chemistry a little bit when we're getting into meteorology, but from a chemistry standpoint, obviously there was an homage to the silver iodine. But what did you feel about, without giving too much away, did anybody go, is that possible?
Yeah, did they consult you, Rick or Connor, about any of that?
They didn't
Not
consult
the
me,
end
but
plot.
they did. Kevin Kelleher was intimately involved in that, and also consulted with people like Lou Wicker and Eric Rasmussen and Harold Brooks. If you stay till the very, very end of the credits, you see several familiar names on the credits there at the very end, and some of those names actually consulted on some of this. I mean, the cloud seeding, the silver iodide, obviously is real because they've been doing weather modification for decades like that. And from everything I've heard and from what Kevin's told me, and I had to do a media interview the other day about it, and I kind of was texting Kevin rapidly to get okay, let me make sure I understand this because I don't completely understand it all. But I think I think, like Kate says in the movie, in theory, on paper, it should work. The issue is going to be getting enough volume of that material into the storm quickly enough and getting it into the right part of the storm. And the fact that to kill a tornado, you're really trying to kill the supercell, and the supercell is so much bigger. And you just can't get enough of that stuff into the storm fast enough. So I think in theory it might work actually, but nobody's ever tried it.
I was wondering that. So what did Kelleher say about that? Like, did he say we're saying there's a chance?
We're saying there's a chance.
That's awesome.
I love you, Dina.
And the talking points we kind of wrote up, it's like, nobody's ever tried this. Nobody has. There's been no scientific, formal or informal projects or research or initiatives to even try this. So nobody really has any idea. But I think Kevin really had to research that, and it doesn't have to be, airtight, soundproof, just completely sound for the movie. But there's enough there, and it's interesting too. At the very end of the movie, you may not have noticed this, but they're kind of in this tank farm. So as she's deploying all this stuff into the storm, the tornado is also hitting this tank farm, and there's smoke, fire, explosions, heat. And Javi mentions at the airport, you're going to go before this review board, and they're going to try to tell you it was the smoke and the heat and the fire that caused the storm to dissipate. That's in there for a reason. I mean, it is. There is some uncertainty about all of this, so it's complicated science, but it was well thought out. It wasn't something they just pulled out.
What made me want to get out my cloud physics book again was she was talking about like the cold pool, like she was going to do this for the cold pool. And so I was like trying to not go down the rabbit hole while I'm there. But afterwards I was thinking about it and I'm like, okay, but if you're condensing water, that's latent heat release, right? It's like you're releasing heat. And then if you even get it to collapse, once it comes down because of like the pressure, the atmosphere, it's going to warm. So I'm like, I see a lot of warming from the effects of what they were doing. But they kept calling it like this cold pool or whatever. And that's the only thing my brain was like breaking about during the theater. I was like, I think it's actually warming. And so this is where I want to sit down and talk with people who are much smarter than I am about this, because it's like, I don't, like you said, it hasn't been tried or tested, especially in this way. But, and I know they consulted with scientific people, but Hollywood's still going to Hollywood.
In theory, did Pampers have to sign off on this?
I love you, man.
You think about like how would they really deploy it if it was real? You can't get in front of everything, and how much money would that cost? Would taxpayers pay it?
Right, the practicality of it.
Yeah,
Like
my mind was practicality because maybe
on
in
an outbreak
Oklahoma,
day,
they
how are
pay
you
the
going to
tax.
know which storm is going to become the dominant one, and what because it would take a lot of resources to go after a single,
It's a lot of money and a
single
lot,
cell on an outbreak
this
day.
is a-
But I think, as we were talking about earlier, I think it's all plot service. It's all to move the plot forward and to give you sort of an idea, again, a Hollywood snapshot of the fact that she's a storm chaser who cares about people. She's not just out there by herself. Superman or David Cornsweet, his character, his caricature, the whole purpose of it is to show that there's people out there who don't care about people. You know what I mean? They're out there for themselves. But that there are chasers who will pull off of whatever their goal is at the time and pull into a town before or after the fact to help. Again, it's all plot. That's all tied to the story that you care about, the human element of it. But I agree, the practicality of the end goal is a little bit more. And that's
I wonder
the thing for me that was the hardest to swallow.
I wonder a little bit, Connor, because that was the question of my 13-year-old son, Casey. Was like, hey, if we can do that, like, can we do that? Why aren't we doing that if we can do that? You know, and I was like, yeah.
Now we're breeding more.
I think it's cool.
scientists.
It's cool to just like dream and just like envision. Because I think, you know, it's like, yes, we can't do this today.
Yes.
That's not saying we will never do it in the future. And there is generations of kids, you know, our kids and then the kids and then their kids, they're going to be redefining science and doing things we can't even imagine. And so I think if we're just even if it's like, you know, I'm like, that isn't really like, who knows what we're, you know, the vision that we're instilling in them. And that was cool to me. I was just like, you know what, this would be really cool to do. I want someone to do this, you know. I'm probably not going to do it, but someone who's much smarter than me, it's cool to dream like that, you know.
Well, look at how many ideas we've come up with now that were from, like, say, sci-fi movies in the past.
Yeah.
You know, like old Star Trek shows and like little radios and phones, like all these things that we have now were from ideas from TV or movies, science fiction.
Tribbles.
Now it's true.
Well, tell you what, let's I mean, we could probably be here all night, guys, talking about this film because
before we end, I just have to ask one
fun.
thing. I want to ask Connor one thing. That airport scene at the end, what airport was that?
Will Rogers.
It was Will Rogers. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was the Kansas City airport. I thought that's where it got dropped off at the end of our storm.
Everything in this movie was filmed in OKC as far
as it's okay though.
Sorry,
it's okay.
Brady.
It was
Sorry,
fun.
Literally just looked right where we ended our storm chase trip this year, so I just had to ask. But.
So let's go around the horn and just kind of get your last thoughts. Maybe we just haven't talked about something you wanted to at least mention, and we'll go around the horn a little bit. But I'll hit our guest, Rick. Again, thanks for coming on the show. What have we missed talking about? Something that you really liked or didn't about the film?
Well, it's interesting. We've missed probably my biggest squirmy, cringy part of the movie, and it's something that I've accepted because it's drama. And I did a talk about Twisters this morning at an emergency management meeting, and we talked a lot about this because an emergency manager went to the Monday night premiere in Oklahoma City, and her first comment to me was that was difficult to watch. Mm-hmm. What she was talking about is there's no warning for any of these tornadoes in the movie. Rodeo, there's a little bit of warning at the rodeo, but in real life in Oklahoma, that rodeo would have been canceled the day before. There would not have been a movie going on in El Reno. So, but you can't have a movie where they cancel the rodeo the day before. You got to have the drama, the surprise. But if I think if meteorologists, if I'm picturing weather service and emergency managers watching this, I think that's going to bother them the most of anything. But
I thought the same thing. That was my biggest nitpick as well. And I thought about you specifically, Rick, every time a tornado would just show up out of nowhere.
And they didn't know about it either, which was odd.
Even the
I'm like, you guys would have known.
Yeah.
I think how I've reconciled it in my mind, again, knowing what I know about the production, I think that what they were going for with that was because in the beginning when they're at the weather service in Norman or in New York, she's saying we're having extremely unusual activity. So what I'm taking it is as a I mean, a once in a generation or whatever, the most intense outbreak week we've ever seen, trough after trough after trough, whatever, you know what I mean? And it's speaking to the unusual unpredictability of this specific event. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I know for you, that has to be really hard with your job. And for you specifically, I would agree. That was the thing that was the most detached from the experience of an Oklahoman, you know, during these outbreaks, is that this is a really bad outbreak where tornadoes, you know, don't have enough lead time, you know.
Well, Connor, as a chaser, what about the fact that no one was like, hey, tornado, call it in? Like, no one was mentioning, hey, call it in, call it in.
No, they did. There was actually in the scene that Tyler was referencing earlier, right? Where they're backing up, and then afterwards they're talking about what do we do next? And she said, there's a tornado heading towards Crystal Springs or Chickasha, whatever it was supposed to be. He says they've already called it in. You know, there's nothing else we can do. And so I think that was speaking to the detachment of like, okay, well, we need to get out of the way. And her drive to say, no, we need to go in after the tornado passed and help. I think, again, it serves that her character's drive to not only be out there and experience the thrill, but to stop and render aid before or after the tornado, you know. But no,
but it was after the tornado that then they're like, okay, should we call it in? Or, you know, like as they were going to these tornadoes.
The tornado was still moving. The tornado was still on the ground and heading towards Crystal Springs. Like that was the continuation of that scene.
I would have liked to have seen those chasers say call it in and have someone calling in the National Weather Service and you know, to encourage that.
Yeah.
From what I understand, early versions of the script had a lot more of that in it. They had like I got questions about, would the Weather Service use CB radios? How would a chaser contact the Weather Service? Would a chaser be in touch with the Weather Service directly, or would they I got lots of questions like that, and the script evolved, and I think they just streamlined things, and they just tried to tighten things up. I mean, it's over a 2-hour movie, but that was in there. That was part of the movie originally, I think.
They had good intentions. Good intentions. Jen, what about you? What do we miss you want to mention?
Gosh, I feel like we've nailed it all. I think just my favorite part about everything is that, I mean, in the live Q&A last night that we all saw, was the fact that, you know, Lee, the director, he has a passion for weather, and, you know, Tyler, you know, when he was like 8 or 9, the Gerald F5 tornado didn't quite experience that, but, you know, it was near them. Like, they all respect the weather, and also came back after filming to go chasing. I think that makes me that much more excited, because it's like they truly were in their roles, you know, and it's just, I don't know, that's really neat to me. And so it makes me appreciate them and the attention to detail, not just the actors themselves, but, you know, everything else. So
could you imagine me not chasing and looking over and there's like Glenn Powell? He'd be like, what the hell?
I know.
Stop.
All right. Brady,
breaks for
going. What's your wrap up, Brady?
Yeah, I just, you know, listen, nothing's perfect. I just think that this movie, it just captured the essence of weather nerd. Like, if you're a weather nerd, you absolutely need to go see this movie, just because of the terms, the radar, everything. I was geeking out the whole time. And also, I just feel like it captures the spirit of storm chasers, right? And the spirit of meteorologists. And it was just like, there were so many points during that movie where I wanted to look to my, you know, my aunt and my dad to my left, who literally like know nothing about the weather. Like, I when I talk to them, I feel like I'm speaking a different language, but I wanted to explain things to them, because it was just there were so many things that, as a meteorologist and as a weather guy, that I related to. And so many things from the storm chasing that I related to, like, hey, we stopped at that gas station. You know, we stopped at gas stations too. And, you know, we got together with all these, and there's all these kind of cliques in storm chasing. There's all these kind of, cliques in meteorology. There's all these kind of different groups. I just think it captured the spirit of it. And I think it captured, it really embodied it really, really, really well. And I think it was a really good movie. It wasn't perfect by any means, but I think of all the weather movies, I think this was one of the best. And it clearly had unbelievable people like Rick and Connor behind it that contributed to making it just so amazing. And so I think if you're a weather nerd, you got to go see it.
Cool.
100%.
Maz, what were your thoughts? Closing thoughts.
So when Twister 1 came out, our local TV station, Channel 13 up in Grand Rapids, we all did a thing, and it was sold out. It was 900 people in the theater.
Wow.
And yeah, I mean, it was like
They didn't have reclining seats then, did they?
I don't remember, but like we gave away prizes. We did, and it was an event. Okay.
Oh.
And now that I'm out of that, and I went to the theater, and obviously it was today, it wasn't yesterday, but it was in the big theater.
Mhm.
Okay. I mean, I was like blown away by the sound and all that stuff. And there was 30 of us in there. And I was really surprised by that. But what I really got out of it is when I saw Twisters 1, I wanted to see Twisters, right? And when Twisters came out, I wanted to see tornadoes.
Yeah.
And I have to say, good job. They did a really good job on the tornadoes, because I mean, that's I went for the coolness. I mean, I'll go back and watch all the extra stuff and be like, oh, that was highly significant, and but the first time I wanted to be like, yeah, it's cool. Look at that. That's what I got out of it.
Maz, can we see a throwback photo from like your station of you seeing the original Twister? We got to get that somehow.
What do you think? I have this like hanging out on my laptop?
I do. It's like in a picture frame
It's a
somewhere.
Polaroid. Yeah.
I know.
That was a long time ago.
All right,
Find it,
Serena. I'm sorry, Joe. Joe, what are your closing thoughts on the film?
I thought it was great. I think of all the weather movies, we do our shows where we watch weather movies and rip some apart and have some fun with others or whatever. Twister has always been number one, and I think there may be a new number one. I think they did a really, really good job with it. It's not perfect. I'd give it like a 4.5 out of 5. But for all the weather movies, it's out there. I had a little bit of a hard time with the ending, but that's where I had to throw the meteorologist out and just be like, that'd be really darn cool, and just enjoy it. We've hit on all the amazing things about it. I just think it was, for a disaster movie, for a natural disaster movie, for a weather movie, I think it takes the top spot and was really well done.
Yeah.
Agreed.
All right, Dina, what do you got? Closing thoughts.
I would say I loved Kate. Like, I love that you had a very strong, smart woman working on it. I've been a meteorologist for 27 years now, and there's still always that guy saying something like, just ignore her, And I loved that she was strong. She just blew things off. I love that she was in the barn and she had her old notes. I literally have all my notes from college and all those equations.
Yep.
I couldn't do them now to save my life.
Yes, you could, Dina. Yes, you
omega
could.
equations. I would have to start from scratch and do math again. But I loved her. I loved like her persona, her calm.
Yeah.
Because you can't be flipping out on certain things, and things just happen in life and you have to deal with them. And I love that she was real quick too. Like she was like, yeah, let me go get you that drink, and she's like, bye. And or she was like throwing him off the scent. I mean, I really liked her, so I think she was a great character.
Yeah, I agree on that one.
Cool. Jen, did you had something else you wanted to add? Go ahead.
Oh no, Dan. Well, Dan had mentioned something fun, I feel like, in the chat.
Okay. I'm sorry. Someone said I've got one more thing to add. What is that? Who was that?
I don't know.
Let's let Connor go first, and then I'll go after Connor.
All right, Connor, did you have something else you wanted to close
I
with?
just want to add one more thing that I'm surprised we kind of haven't talked about, because I know this is a dynamic for some of the chasers that I'm friends with. And it's definitely a dynamic for me personally, is that Kate's the aspect of her that struggles with fear. And a theme of this movie is that pull between fascination and fear with tornadoes. I grew up in the town of Bridge Creek, and I was Enbridge Creek. I was 7 years old in 1999.
Oh,
And
wow.
I struggled with very, it was an all-encompassing irrational fear with tornadoes that sort of changed into fascination. And I think the aspect of her character that so much of the thrill that she gets and that Glenn's character helps her to see within herself is that so much of the thrill with dancing around these tornadoes comes from the fact that you're facing that very real, primal fear, especially somebody who's had a close, intimate experience with a tornado. The people who go from fear to awe and fascination and the thrill of facing your fear is what I think is the most magical part of this movie, at least for me personally. And I know a few others who feel the same way. And that's what surprised me. Like I said, I knew going in to production and seeing everything that they were doing and seeing, their attention to detail. I knew it was going to be a Chaser movie, but I had no idea that it was going to touch on it. And Joe's character in the original movie, it's a lot of the same thing. It's the same overall theme of somebody who has been touched by the storm in a situation where they don't feel in control.
Yeah.
You're not in control, and then being able to steel yourself and learn how to feel in control is the source of that thrill.
Well said.
I loved that.
Yeah.
Loved that about the film.
Very well said, Connor.
Cool. I want to mention a couple people that have been helping us run this show tonight. I certainly want to get their feedback as well. I'm going to start with Dan Wallace. Dan, who's friend of the team. He's been screening all of our calls all night. But Dan, what were your thoughts on the movie and I guess closing ideas from you?
Everyone spam Agent Dan in the chat. Agent Dan emotes in the chat, everyone.
Woo! We love you, Dan.
So, well, thank you. So I was first I kind of noticed at the rodeo scene where like they were completely caught off guard, didn't know there were storms, tornadoes. I mean, you can be disconnected and not be looking at the radar, but you still have that friend that's texting you and blowing up your phone.
Right.
Yeah.
And thought that was weird. No categorical outlooks, nothing about the SPC. Thought that was interesting, but I mean, you can't get everything in the script.
Yeah.
And in the rodeo scene, sitting next to Glenn Powell was the flashback mom from the original Twist. I don't know if anyone saw that. April Warren, a friend of mine.
No, I missed
She had a
that was-
story. She had a story on KFOR tonight, actually. At 6
Oh.
Wow.
They ran a story showing some of her footage that she had from the original Twister, some of her memorabilia and her souvenirs that she kept, and then her story from on set. And I've talked to her several times since the production, and she was telling stories I had never heard. So I don't know if it's going to be on the KFOR website or what, but her segment tonight was really cool. If you guys could catch that.
She's the one with the bush deer clan.
Wow.
That's awesome. And even in the rodeo too, Dan, his parents,
Yeah.
Glenn Powell's parents were sitting right behind them.
Yeah.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, that was-
Yes, those are his
Cool.
mom and dad
Good call,
right
Dan.
behind him.
This is going to be the ultimate movie to pause once we have it
I
on
know.
Blu-ray.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
You're like,
All
we
right.
spend hours pointing everything out.
yeah, we are.
All right, and
And
then MJ, who's producing this show every single night, he actually got here
Bar.
just after watching the film. So, MJ, what were your
Wow.
thoughts?
So I'm pretty simple when I go to a movie. I get done and I say, was I entertained? Because that's kind of, why I go to movies. Answer to this one, absolutely. I mean, it was a very entertaining movie. I am, of this group, I'm the furthest probably away from the science, and because I'm not a meteorologist. I'm a weather enthusiast at best. I'm also a spotter, for the and a Skywarn coordinator. But that aside, I'm up here in Minnesota, so I'm in a theater with a whole bunch of people from, small town Minnesota. They are probably not storm chasers. They are probably not meteorologists. They are weather enthusiasts at best. And I kind of took in what I heard from the audience, and they laughed and they gasped and they did all of those things. So I think the answer to while I hear it in all of you and I understand what a wonderful movie it is from a meteorological standpoint, I think other people are going to enjoy it too. And I think I saw that tonight.
The fact that we can sit here as weather nerds and have so much love for this film and not pick it apart, and the people who don't have any idea what we're talking about can go into this film and love it. Again, on the off chance that anybody from production, anybody who was at all involved in this film is watching us tonight, it is such a victory, I think, for them, because these were storytellers.
Yes.
These are people who came to California. Except for Isaac. I mean, Isaac's vision, he had personal experience, but most of the people in this were really creative storytellers who were interested in our story. You know what I mean? The story of people who do have that fascination with weather for one way or another. So the fact that they came in and were able to create this art, you know, as a love letter to this world that we live in and that we care so much about. Again, I think they deserve all the praise they can get, because it's the fact that we live in this timeline where we got this movie is awesome. So that's just how I feel.
Cool. All right. And then I'm going to ask Garrett. So Garrett's a friend of the show as well, one of our VIPs. He actually drove all the way to Tennessee to see the film today and drove all the way back. But Garrett, what were your final thoughts?
It gave me the same feelings, you know, I had as a 14-year-old boy from Virginia sitting there in the theater watching the original in '96. And it's like, hey, you know, somebody's finally made a good movie about, you know, something that interests a few select, you know, of us there as a crowd. And they did it well and they did it right. And I really think that this one captured the heart of the original, and, you know, the science. Yeah, there's some misses here and there, but unless you're super analyzing everything, the average Joe is not going to pick up on it. You know, I think it's certainly a good escape, you know, from everything going on now, and much needed. And hopefully, you know, maybe this is something they can build off of. Maybe give us another sequel to this, you know, in a few years, because I think this is going to show that the people are still interested in it highly. I mean, we've had to sit here and wait 28 years for a true, legit, good movie about tornadoes. You know, nothing that's a spoof on it. You know, we've had kind of fill-ins with the day after tomorrow, and, you know, things like that they got some cool stuff, but just to actually see the motion, you know, the effects of these tornadoes were epic, with the rising motion and the debris being lofted. And I think the fact that they brought El Reno into the mix, you know, as we all know what happened several years, you know, after Twister, of course, in 2013. And I think, you know, kind of ending there in this film was kind of a subtle nod maybe to events that happened, and kind of brings El Reno into scope, and maybe a little tribute to Twist X in the grand scheme of things there. So I think it's going to have a lasting legacy, and hopefully something that we may see more of. And, you know, it just a really well put together film in my opinion. So hopefully we'll see more.
Cool. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm just going to quick mention a few things on my end. Don't need to discuss this quick. I didn't like the underpass scene at the beginning, even though they said, don't go to the underpass, it'll suck you out, and 3 people still died, or 2 people died out of it. I get it, but 1 person lived, and I just think you could have just not had it and made people think that, well, maybe I can still go there and survive.
It's valid.
I don't think... I don't think chasers usually race. Both Twister and Twisters did this. Like, chasers racing. It's like, and they're like just booking it out of the gas station. They don't usually do that. Like, if you're that late getting to the storm, you're gonna miss it. I love the fact that Javi told his team, go to the bathroom before we go.
Yes,
Brady,
I
thought that was important.
Sorry.
I didn't see a whole lot of CG lightning in the film. There wasn't a lot of lightning, a lot of tornadoes, not a lot of lightning.
Right.
The last thing I'm going to finish with is I really thought it was interesting. The mother, Kate's mother, how it was set up. Like the beginning of the movie, she's calling her mom, hey, let's go to, mom's invited to the barbecue. And then it was kind of a surprise entrance, right? She Kate walks into her house, she's grabbing some milk or something. And then all of a sudden mom kind of sneaks out of the dark of the living room. It seemed like that was totally set up to be Helen Hunt. And maybe Helen Hunt didn't want to be a part of the movie, so they used someone else, and I thought she was great, the actress that they had for the mother. But it just seemed like maybe in the script, everything was set up to be a boom cameo. Here's Helen Hunt. She's actually the mom, and didn't see it. But
I know.
Oh,
You know
I like
what?
That would have been cool.
Yeah,
It would have been
that
kind of
been
cool,
so
but also
cool.
predictable. Like maybe too. Like I see the point. It would have
A
been
little
neat,
bit,
but
but
I
yeah,
think maybe I'm
but-
kind of glad they didn't.
that was
I don't
cool.
know.
Brady,
Well,
Brady, did you
I'm
have
glad
one?
too. I'm glad they didn't as well.
Yeah.
Personally.
Okay. Yeah.
I like the Twisters. Twister is, if you want to go watch Twister, you can watch Twister, and it's always going to be, and you sort of leave it up to your imagination where Bill and Joe ended up. Same with Star Wars. You look at Star Wars now, and I'm a huge Star Wars fan, but the fact that story has been written in canon, I mean, it is what it is, and there's lots of people who aren't happy with how the story turned out. And for us as the people who love Twister, part of me is happy that it's always going to be its own thing and that we're back in the universe, but we don't have to worry about like, oh, if I come to find out, Bill died at this point, or, like any of that. And Helen Hunt, in her idea for the sequel, she was going to have herself killed off. And personally, I'm so glad that didn't happen.
No.
Yeah, no, that's
Yeah.
true. That's very true.
So,
Can I ask one more question?
Yeah, Rick, what do you got?
Okay, the very ending of the movie, was anybody upset that Kate and Tyler didn't
Yes.
have a big
Kiss?
wet,
It's because it
dramatic
leaked.
kiss at
Did
the
you see it
airport?
leak?
Or
It leaked. It's because the kiss leaked. There was a kissing scene where Glenn Powell and her kissed at Will Rogers Airport, and somebody got it and put it
I
on
think
TikTok.
that was a fake scene that they planted because
So you think it was fake and
I
not
think
that they
so.
rewrote it
I
afterwards?
think it was an alt that they shot and they just got it
I
out
thought
there.
it was the opposite of cliche. The fact that they had only known each other a week. They've known
I'm
each other
glad
a
they
week,
didn't.
and there's sparks, and they obviously have found some passion. But I mean, if they were sucking face after a few days,
For the sequel.
I don't know.
Way to make a
Yeah.
point.
And-
Now we need a
and-
sequel.
And
You can feel
exactly,
that there's something there
there
without
is a
that.
sequel. Yeah.
Without
I
alcohol.
thought that I liked it. I liked that I loved the way it ended. And like I said, the segue from,
I'm like you, Connor. At first, I was like, why didn't they kiss? But then I'm like, you know what?
Yeah.
It's kind of cool that they didn't.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It was neat. Yeah,
All right,
I like
Brady.
it.
Brady, you keep saying you got something else to close with. It better be legit, okay? Because otherwise, I'm gonna be like, if we're wasting
Oh, it's
time.
legit. No,
All right, bring it.
I just wanted to say I think the last thing that this movie kind of I'm not a very emotional guy, but I just feel like the camaraderie of the chasers, especially the the tornado wranglers, they kind of started as a bad guy, and then at the end you just found out that they're like kind of one big family. That just it made me a little emotional. Of like that's how I feel about this group, right? And I feel like every kind of group of storm chasers has that kind of family camaraderie, and especially this group, and there's a lot of other chasers that have it as well. And it's a really cool thing that I don't think a lot of people think about. And I think everyone on this team, especially, has their own kind of unique role, and that's exactly how it was portrayed in the movie. And I think there's a lot of teams of storm chasers out there that there are a lot of people that don't necessarily get a lot of recognition, aren't in the spotlight, but this movie highlighted that every single person on that chase team had a role to play, and they did it well. And I just think that every single person on this team and every single chaser out there that is on a team or with group of people, like, you guys have a role and you're important, and what you do is important, not only for yourselves and for your team, but also for community of storm chasing and for the community of weather. So keep doing it responsibly, and I hope this movie kind of inspires you to do it safely, but also keep furthering the science and dream big. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I love you,
Good
Brady,
stuff,
and I love
Brady.
that.
Yeah,
was
well
nice.
said. That was perfectly
That
said.
was
I
good.
agree.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That was
great way
good.
to end the show, Brady.
I was fearing you were going to show another Dino website or something.
No.
Forgive me for not taking that more seriously, but I think that just about does it. I think that does it for this episode of Stormfront Freaks Live. So everybody, thanks for tuning in. Before you go, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. It helps us out too, and helps us allow more people to really see what we're doing. So we appreciate everybody in the chat. We've actually been following along. We've had so much to cover and only so much time to do it. But it was great to have you. Everybody calling in too. We appreciate that. So Rick and Connor, Rick. First off, thanks again for being on the show and giving us this time and staying here all night. This is outstanding.
Yes, thank you.
Rick, I'll start with you. If you could let people know how they can follow you online. And I'm also curious, what's the latest on Monday's Weather Brains episode? What's going on there?
Yeah, probably the easiest way to follow me is I'm still hanging in there on X, Twitter, whatever we're calling it. I still call it Twitter, but
I call it Twitter too.
Yeah,
Twitter
always. I'm OUNWCM, so I'm on there posting an annoying amount of. Well, I'm not so much on Twitter, but on Facebook, I'm doing an annoying amount of Twisters stuff this week. But and yeah, Weather Brains Monday night is our Twisters episode. And we actually have two people that we've been talking about here a lot tonight. Sean Waugh and Kevin Kelleher are going to be our guests, and we're going to get into a lot of behind the scenes stuff, and NDAs will expire tomorrow, and we can talk about that. I mean, that could be a 3-hour show also. So I'm looking forward to that. I hope everybody will tune into that. And I mean, we could go on all night, literally. I mean, we've talked about a lot, but it's been so fun to talk about it. And I appreciate the invitation.
Well, Rick, it's always great to have you back, and you're one of many, but certainly one of the folks in this industry with great wisdom, great knowledge, but is just a great human being, and so it's always great to just do anything with you. So thanks, Rick.
Thank you.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Rick, thank
and
you
then
so
Connor, welcome to the show. I mean, this wasn't our normal show. Like, we didn't play any games with you, and we didn't. We usually do those with our guests. Yeah, we'll have to have you back for a real show. But thanks for coming on. And how can people find you, follow you?
Oh, I'm on Facebook. Facebook's been my platform so far, and my public page is tied to the station, but I post a lot of my stuff on there. Like I said, I've been in the community for a lot of years, but I've sort of hung back in the background, and since this movie came out, I've met so many awesome people. Again, Rick, one of them. I've always been a fan of Rick. Rick's been very public with his stuff, and getting to know some of these people that I've looked up to for so long, and realize just how cool some of these guys are, just as guys to hang out with and talk. It's been such a treat, and this has been awesome. I've loved Stormfront Freaks for quite a while, and to get to chat with you guys and hang out with you, it's been a blast.
Well, we've had a blast with you, Connor.
A blast hanging with you, Connor.
All right, Freaks, we'll go around the horn. Brady, start with you. Where can people follow you?
At Stormcat5 on Insta and X, and I just created a TikTok account. So at 0 views, 0 followers. So who knows what's going to happen?
I'll change that for you tomorrow, Brady.
I love that.
All right, Jen Watson.
You can find me on Instagram and TikTok, Jennifer Weather, on Twitter or X at @JWatson_WX. I'm also on Facebook too.
Cool. Maz?
On X I'm an X man. Right.
Yeah.
On X at Money Storm for you. That's Money Storm, the number 4, the letter U.
Cool. Serena, you're up.
Everything is WX Serena, WXCYRENA, mostly on TikTok. And don't forget to go check out my Wired episode of Tech Support with Wired that came out this week. 20-minute long show about storm chasing and weather.
Cool. I like it because there's some swear words in it. So I was
got
impressed.
to swear. It was
that
awesome.
was good. That was good. All right, Dina.
I'm Lady Pilot 70 on X, Threads, Instagram. I don't really do TikTok, so I leave that to Serena.
You're
So
awesome,
I'm usually,
Dina.
I'm
You're
usually
awesome.
on Twitter at Stormfront Freak. It's just usually where I typically post anything worth posting. Our next episode, so I want everybody to check this out. Our next episode, we're going to be turning up the freak factor because we have got Stormchaser and director of the film project Para Twisted, Cam Crosby, is going to be joining us. And so Cam has created a film about a tornado that also wiped out a haunted house. And so we are, it's going to be freaky. So we're going to find out, can tornadoes kill ghosts or not, or
Oh my God.
That's where that came from.
That's a good idea. I like it.
Who are you gonna call?
You guys, I have to say something. Can I add something really quick, Phil? Back like 11 years ago, I shot a pilot for a storm chasing ghost hunting show. With the director of Ghost Hunters, like way back in the day.
We can find that because
Tornado, ghost. Which one do we look at?
Oh my God, it was so insane. This is for another conversation. I'm not even sure if I'm on that episode, Phil, but yeah, we'll have to talk about it.
I loved Ghost Hunters, I'll say, as a kid. So if I could find your storm chasing Ghost Hunters pilot, my God, that would be awesome.
Connor, we'll talk after this.
So Cam is also a paranormal investigator and storm chaser. So he is what your show is about, Jen. And so this will be a really interesting, definitely an interesting show. We'll be live Thursday, August 1st at 9 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock p.m. Central. And then that'll be on YouTube, and the audio podcast will be available that weekend. So come back in a couple weeks and check this out. Those of you watching, stick around for a little after show party. It's probably going to be pretty quick, but you can stick around. And so for Dina and Stormcat, Jen, Maz, Dan, Garrett, Serena, Connor, and Rick, I'm going to signal the all clear, and we will catch you guys next time. Good night, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Peace.
Thank you for tuning in to the Stormfront Freaks podcast. You can watch our bi-weekly show live on youtube.com/StormfrontFreaks and download the audio version on your favorite podcast player. For links to our Patreon team of exclusive benefits, show notes, past shows, new videos, merchandise, and more, visit our website at stormfrontfreaks.com. While you're there, check out our interactive chaser radar from our friends at zoomradar.com. If you'd like to contact us with questions or make comments about the show, shoot us an email to questions@stormfrontfreaks.com or follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok. Search for Stormfront Freaks. We'd love to hear from you. Join us next time and tell a friend about the Stormfront Freaks podcast.
So Rick and Connor, thank you. Had a blast.
Thank you,
I
guys.
appreciate the 2.5 freaking hours of a show that we had tonight. That was wow.
That's the longest. That's a record.
Yeah, it is.
It's a long show.
We could go longer. We really could.
Yeah.
Rick and I'm telling you, we've got so many stories that we could go for another 2 hours. I'm not even kidding.
Maybe we do Twisters Part 2. We do Twisters Part 2.
A continuation.
Once it comes out on DVD or something, we'll do some kind of a.
There you go.
We'll watch it.
Twisters behind the scenes.
Yes. I love
Well, I
that.
think it's like 45 days before they can put it on digital, any theatrical release now. So
Is it?
I will say
It's quicker
also,
than it used to be.
there's a lot of people that were on set that would like to do this with us that are going to have their own stories. So if you ever do a behind the scenes deal, I mean, it's a few texts away from some of the chasers that if I said we were going to get on here and just tell stories, I mean,
That's a
we could
no-brainer.
fill your time.
There's dozens of people that
45 days,
Yeah.
Phil.
Yeah, well, you shared a number of people with me, and I just kind of, I couldn't have a dozen people on at the same time. Unfortunately,
Right.
we only have so
I
many
get it.
boxes on our screen.
You talked a lot about Kevin Gallagher tonight. The next time you watch the movie, he's a cotton candy vendor in El Reno, and they cut
I
his
didn't
scene
know
where
that.
he's giving a little girl the cotton candy. But you can see him in the theater after the tornado when they're kind of, after the tornado dissipates, and he's kind of helping a little girl up, and He's in there a couple of times, so he got a little cameo in there.
Oh, good.
That's so
One of the
cute.
executive producers at the end, where an announcement is made at the Oklahoma City airport about due to storms in the area. That's Ashley J. Sandberg, the executive producer. There's lots of little. There's a guy that gets out of Connor's tour van. His name is Doug Soak, who's the associate producer. There's just, you could talk about this all day.
Oh my God, I love this.
Hey.
I could listen to it all day.
Yeah.
Book it, Phil.
Book it. All right. Book it, Dan.
I love it.
Book it, Dan. Agent Dan. Put the
Maybe
glasses
we
on.
we can do something around the DVD release, the movie or something.
Yeah.
I think that might be fitting.
Well, like do our watch show again, right? Where we're watching it and have those people come in and tell their stories as we're watching it.
Yeah, we just can't put it on YouTube.
Oh yeah,
that's the only difference.
True.
But we've learned that it still makes for a good audio podcast. Like you play the movie sound a little bit in the background while we're talking about it. It's like DVDs, like the director's commentary while you watch the film and you hear the director talk about making it and all that stuff.
That's another thing in the movie. Did y'all catch, like, where he's doing his YouTube streams and he's sitting there changing songs like throughout, the streams? Any of us know, that YouTube would instantly mute his feed.
Yeah.
So that's kind of one of the minor things there. But
That was
one of the things I thought was cool, was the hyperlapse they did of the storm formation there. It was straight up like textbook right out of basically, spotter training, Skywarn. When you look at the diagram, so that was like your living representation there. So I thought that was kind of a nod to that in a sense.
Well, I think that was the reference that Ben made to Lee Orff's work with the simulation, the supercell and tornado simulation, computer simulations. Like, I think they were using that, and then somehow they got the animation from that and used that as the framework for that shot. But I mean, so much of it, like you said, the fluid dynamics of it looks good.
I had to say, like, it didn't, even though it was CGI or whatever, it didn't look like all CGI'd up. If that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. 100%. You guys are so awesome, Connor and Rick. Like, is this
thanks,
our
you guys.
longest episode ever, Phil?
Yeah, it is.
All right.
They are the record holders. Rick and Connor are now the record holders.
Cool.
Yeah.
So
That's cool, I guess.
Yeah, it is cool. It's really cool.
Still want your autographs. I
know. I want your
I
autograph.
don't know why, but okay.
All right, gang. That was a lot of fun, and
was
again,
awesome.
appreciate everybody's time and that
Thank you, guys.
you all had a chance to see it before tonight. So that was great because a lot of you drove long ways and did some cool stuff. So great job, everybody.
Yeah.
Good night.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all.
We love you
Cool.
guys.
All right,
to see
good
you
night,
guys.
everybody.
Thanks to our members.
Enjoy the film again 3 or 4 or 5 times.
No,
Yeah.
At least.
Times at least.